"We're running out of time," Dr. Vex said, her voice tight with tension. "We need to implement a solution now, or there won't be a planet left for the diplomats to visit." Nicholas nodded, pushing aside his exhaustion and pain. He turned to Tina, seeing his own dedication reflected in her alien eyes. "Let's get to work." As human and Voth scientists raced against time, the once hostile outpost transformed into a symbol of cooperation. Outside, the sky continued to darken, a constant reminder of the high stakes of their improvised alliance. The future of not just this planet, but of human-Voth relations, hung in the balance as they prepared to face their greatest challenge yet. The tense atmosphere in the outpost was suddenly shattered by a deafening crack of thunder. The lights flickered ominously, plunging the room into momentary darkness before the backup generators kicked in. Nicholas stumbled, catching himself on a nearby console. The sudden movement sent a sharp pain through his injured side, but he gritted his teeth and pushed through it. "We need to move faster," he said, his voice tight with urgency. Dr. Vex nodded, her normally composed demeanor showing signs of strain. "Agreed. The atmospheric destabilization is accelerating at an alarming rate." As if to punctuate her words, a violent gust of wind rattled the outpost's reinforced windows. Outside, the sky had turned an ominous shade of green, swirling with angry clouds that seemed to defy the laws of nature. Commander Steele's voice cut through the din of frantic activity. "I've just received an update from our orbital sensors. A massive storm system is forming over the ocean, and it's heading straight for us." The news sent a ripple of concern through the assembled humans and Voth. Tina's eyes widened as she processed the implications. If that storm hits us at full strength, it could tear this outpost apart, Nicholas finished, his heart made. Steele nodded grimly. "We need a way to dissipate that storm, or at the very least, reduce its intensity before it makes landfall." For a moment, the room fell silent as the enormity of the challenge sank in. Then Nicholas spoke up, his voice steady despite the pain that still lingered in his side. "What if we could seed the storm with some kind of compound? Something that could disrupt its energy pattern?" Dr. Vex's eyes lit up with sudden understanding. Yes, that could work. We have been developing a particulate compound for atmospheric modification. With some adjustments, it might be able to destabilize the storm structure. But delivering it would be incredibly dangerous, Tina interjected, her gaze fixed on Nicholas. "You'd have to fly directly into the heart of the storm." Nicholas met her eyes, a silent understanding passing between them. "I'll do it," he said, turning to face Commander Steele. "I have experience flying in extreme weather conditions. If anyone can get that compound where it needs to go, it's me." Steele's brow furrowed with concern. "Nicholas, you're still recovering from your injuries. I can in good conscience dash." "Commander," Dr. Vex interrupted, her tone uncharacteristically urgent, "I believe Nicholas may be our best option. His recent exposure to our medical treatments has altered his physiology in ways we're only beginning to understand. He may be uniquely suited to withstand the stresses of this mission." A tense silence fell over the room as Steele weighed the options. Finally, he gave a curt nod. "All right, but you're not going alone. We'll need to modify one of the Voth atmospheric research vessels to accommodate human controls." "I'm going with him," Tina said, her tone leaving no room for argument. "My knowledge of Voth technology and atmospheric science could be crucial to the mission's success." As the others began to prepare for the mission, Nicholas found himself face to face with Dr. Vex. The Voth scientist regarded him with an unreadable expression. "I hope you understand the gravity of what you're about to attempt," she said quietly. "The fate of this planet, and perhaps the future of human-Voth relations, may rest on your success." Nicholas nodded solemnly. "I understand, Doctor, and I won't let you down." As they made their way to the hangar where the modified vessel awaited, a new complication arose. Commander Steele received an urgent communication, his face growing grim as he listened. "We have another problem," he announced. "A Voth battle cruiser has been detected on approach to the planet. It's responding to the outpost's original distress call." Dr. Vex's normally impassive face showed a flicker of concern. "Who's commanding the cruiser?" "Admiral Zorn," Steele replied, his voice tight. The name sent a ripple of tension through the assembled Voth. Nicholas glanced at Tina, noticing her sudden unease. "Who's Admiral Zorn?" he asked quietly. "A hardliner," Tina whispered back. "He's known for his anti-human stance. If he arrives before we commitment this crisis..." The implications hung heavy in the air. The fragile alliance they had built could crumble in an instant. As they reached the hangar, Nicholas saw the modified research vessel for the first time. It was an elegant blend of Voth and human technology, its sleek lines hinting at the power contained within. "It's not exactly standard," one of the engineers explained as Nicholas and Tina approached. "We've integrated human control systems with Voth atmospheric sensors. It should give you the best of both worlds." As they began the pre-flight checks, Nicholas felt a familiar mix of excitement and apprehension building in his chest. He glanced at Tina, seeing his own purpose mirrored in her alien features. "Ready for this?" he asked, managing a small smile. Tina nodded, her hand briefly squeezing his arm. "Let's save a planet." As the hangar doors slid open, revealing the turbulent sky beyond, Nicholas took a deep breath. The modified vessel hummed to life around them, its systems a harmonious blend of two vastly different technologies. With a final nod to Commander Steele and Dr. Vex, Nicholas eased the vessel forward. As they lifted off, the full fury of the destabilized atmosphere hit them. The vessel bucked and shuddered, fighting against winds that seemed to come from every direction at once. Nicholas gritted his teeth, his hands steady on the controls as he guided them towards the approaching storm. On the horizon, he could see it, a monstrous wall of swirling clouds, shot through with arcs of lightning. As they flew towards the heart of the storm, the fate of two species hanging in the balance, Nicholas couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. Here he was, a human pilot, flying a Voth vessel into the unknown alongside an alien scientist he had come to trust with his life. Whatever the outcome, he realized this moment was already historic. The true test, however, was yet to come. The true test, however, was yet to come. As they penetrated deeper into the storm, the hybrid vessel shuddered violently, buffeted by winds that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Nicholas's fingers tightening as he gripped the controls, his enhanced physiology allowing him to withstand the intense G-forces. "Tina, how are we looking?" he called out, eyes fixed on the swirling chaos ahead. Tina's fingers danced across the alien console, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Shield integrity at 72% and dropping. We need to deploy the compound soon, or we won't make it back out." Nicholas nodded, guiding the craft through a particularly violent updraft. The ship groaned in protest, its hybrid system straining under the onslaught. Suddenly, a priority communication from the outpost cut through the static. Commander Steele's voice crackled over the intercom, tension evident in his tone. "Nicholas, Tina, we have a new situation. Long-range sensors had detected a massive asteroid on a collision course with the planet. It was hidden behind the largest moon, but it's now visible and closing fast." Nicholas and Tina exchanged alarmed glances. "Understood, Commander," Nicholas replied. "What's our new objective?" Before Steele could respond, another voice interrupted, deep, authoritative, and unmistakably Voth. "This is Admiral Zorn of the Voth battle cruiser, Indomitable. I demand an explanation for this unauthorized human presence on our research planet." Nicholas felt his heart sink. The arrival of a hardline Voth admiral could jeopardize everything they'd worked for. Steele's voice returned, strained but diplomatic. Admiral Zorn, we're facing a planetary emergency. The atmosphere has destabilized, and now we have an impending asteroid impact. We need to work together, Dash. Nonsense. Zorn cut him off. This is clearly a human plot to steal our technology. Prepare to be boarded. As the exchange continued, Nicholas refocused on their immediate task. Tina, we're approaching the storm's core. Prepare to deploy the compound. Tina nodded, her fingers flying over the controls. Ready on your mark. Nicholas guided the vessel into the heart of the tempest, fighting against winds that threatened to tear them apart. Now! Tina activated the release mechanism, and a fine mist of the specially designed compound sprayed from the ship's exterior ports. Almost immediately, the swirling patterns of the storm began to shift, the compound interacting with the unstable atmospheric particles. It's working, Tina exclaimed, her eyes wide as she monitored the readings. The storm's energy signature is starting to dissipate. Their elation was short-lived, however, as a new message came through from the outpost. Dr. Vex's voice, usually so composed, carried an edge of urgency. Nicholas, Tina, we've managed to convince Admiral Zorn of the asteroid threat. He's offering the battle cruiser's main weapon to destroy it, but we lack the precision to target it effectively from orbit. We need you to abort your current mission and rendezvous with Lieutenant Kira. You'll be planting targeting beacons on the asteroid's surface. Nicholas felt a mix of relief and apprehension. The storm was dissipating, but the asteroid posed an even greater threat. Understood, Doctor. We're on our way. As they maneuvered out of the storm, the hybrid vessel groaned ominously. Warning lights flashed across the console, indicating multiple system failures. Nicholas, we've taken heavy damage, Tina reported, her voice tight. I'm not sure how much longer we can stay airborne. Gritting his teeth, Nicholas pushed the craft to its limits, aiming for the rendezvous point at the edge of the planet's atmosphere. The vessel shuddered and bucked, parts of its outer hull beginning to peel away under the strain. Just as it seemed they might break apart, they spotted Lieutenant Kira's sleek Voth craft waiting for them. With a final burst of power, Nicholas guided their battered vessel into a docking procedure. As the airlock sealed, Nicholas and Tina hurried to transfer to Kira's ship. The Voth officer, a stern-faced female with piercing yellow eyes, greeted them with a curt nod. I hope you understand the gravity of our situation, Kira said, her voice cold. Admiral Zorn was reluctant to trust humans with this task. Don't make him regret it. Nicholas met her gaze steadily. We're all in this together now, Lieutenant. Let's focus on saving the planet. As Kira's craft detached and sped towards the approaching asteroid, Nicholas took the pilot's seat. The vessel's controls were a mix of familiar and alien technology, but his recent experiences allowed him to adapt quickly. Tina settled into the system's management station, while Kira prepared the targeting beacons. As they approached the massive rock hurtling through space, Nicholas saw the enormity of their task. The asteroid's surface was a treacherous landscape of craters, crevices, and gravitational anomalies. We'll need to find stable points to place the beacons, Kira announced, studying the sensor readings. The cruiser's weapon won't be effective unless we can guide it to the asteroid's weak points. Nicholas nodded, his focus narrowing to the challenge ahead. As he maneuvered the craft closer to the asteroid's pockmarked surface, he could feel the weight of two worlds on his shoulders. Their success or failure in the next few minutes would determine not just the fate of the planet below, but the future of human-Voth relations. With a deep breath, he began the descent towards the asteroid's surface, acutely aware of the battle cruiser positioning itself for the critical shot behind them. The small craft shuddered as it entered the asteroid's weak gravitational field, debris pinging off its hull. Brace yourselves, Nicholas called out, spotting a relatively flat area amidst the chaos. This is going to be a rough landing. Landing. With those words, Nicholas eased the craft down onto the asteroid's jagged surface. The impact sent vibrations through the ship's hull, but Nicholas's expert piloting ensured a stable touchdown. As the dust settled, Tina quickly ran a systems check. "We're secure, but we need to move fast. The asteroid's gravitational field is fluctuating wildly." Lieutenant Kira nodded, her stern expression softening slightly. "Impressive landing, human. Now, let's get to work." The trio donned their specialized environmental suits, designed to withstand the harsh conditions of space and the asteroid's minimal gravity. As the airlock hissed open, they stepped out onto the alien landscape. Jagged rocks stretched as far as the eye could see, interrupted by yawning crevasses that seemed to lead to the very core of the celestial body. The horizon curved sharply, a constant reminder of the asteroid's relatively small size and the precariousness of their situation. "We need to place these targeting beacons at precise coordinates," Kira explained, hefting a pack of sleek devices. "The battle cruiser's weapon won't be effective unless we guide it to the asteroid's structural weak points." Nicholas nodded, surveying the treacherous terrain. "Right. Let's split up to cover more ground. Keep in constant communication." As they began their work, the challenges became immediately apparent. The low gravity made movement both easier and more dangerous. A misstep could send them flying off into space or down into one of the countless crevasses. Tina's voice crackled over the comm system. "I've placed the first beacon. The readings are stable." But her words were cut off by a sudden rumble that shook the entire asteroid. "Tina," Nicholas called out, his heart racing. "Are you all right?" After a tense moment, her voice returned. "I'm okay. A section of the surface just collapsed near me. This place is even more unstable than we thought." Nicholas turned to see Kira struggling with one of the beacons. "It's malfunctioning," she growled, her gloved hands working deftly on the device's intricate components. "I'll cover you," Nicholas said, positioning himself to shield Kira from any falling debris. As he did so, he caught sight of a massive fissure opening up in the asteroid's surface, cutting off their path back to the ship. "We've got a problem," he reported, his voice tense. "Our exit route is compromised. We need to find another way back to the craft once we're done." Kira finally got the beacon operational, her eyes narrowing behind her faceplate. "One more to go. We need to hurry." As they approached the final deployment site, another violent tremor rocked the asteroid. Nicholas lost his footing, tumbling towards a gaping chasm that had suddenly appeared beneath him. "Nicholas!" Tina cried out, reaching for him but falling short. Time seemed to slow as Nicholas plummeted towards the abyss. In that moment, his enhanced physiology kicked in. With a surge of strength, he managed to grab onto a jutting rock, halting his fall. Kira, displaying impressive speed and agility, rushed to the edge and extended her hand. "Take my hand, human." Nicholas reached up, straining against the pull of the chasm below. Their fingers touched, then clasped. With a mighty heave, Kira pulled Nicholas to safety. Gasping for breath, Nicholas nodded his thanks. "We need to activate that last beacon now. Time's running out." They rushed to the final location, working together to set up and activate the device. As the network of beacons came online, a crackle of energy seemed to pulse through the asteroid's surface. Their triumph was short-lived, however, as Commander Steele's voice came through their communicators, laden with urgency. "Team, we have a critical situation. The battle cruiser's weapon system has developed a fault. We need manual targeting from the asteroid's surface." Nicholas straightened, his eyebrows furrowed. "I'll stay behind. I can guide the weapon's trajectory." "No!" Tina protested vehemently. "It's too dangerous. We can find another way." Before the argument could escalate, Lieutenant Kira stepped forward. "I will remain," she stated firmly. "My knowledge of our technology makes me the logical choice." Nicholas opened his mouth to object, but the look in Kira's eyes stopped him. He saw in them not just persistence, but a newfound respect for him, for Tina, for the spirit of cooperation that had brought them to this point. "Very well," Nicholas conceded, his voice heavy. "What do we need to know for the return journey?" As Kira quickly briefed them on navigating the treacherous path back to their craft, Nicholas and Tina prepared for departure. The asteroid continued to shake beneath their feet, a constant reminder of the countdown they faced. With a final nod of respect to Lieutenant Kira, Nicholas and Tina boarded their hybrid vessel. As they lifted off, Nicholas caught a last glimpse of the Voth officer, standing tall amidst the chaos of the asteroid's surface. The return journey promised to be just as perilous as their arrival. Nicholas gripped the controls tightly, maneuvering through a dense field of debris. Fragments of rock pinged off the hull as Tina monitored their systems, making constant adjustments to keep them airborne. "We're receiving a transmission from Admiral Zorn," Tina reported, her voice tense. "He's ordering the battlecruiser to fire, regardless of our position." Nicholas is squeezing hard on the controls. "Then we'd better outrun that shockwave. Hold on tight." As they pushed their battered craft to its limits, racing against time and the impending blast, Nicholas couldn't help but think of Lieutenant Kira, alone on the asteroid. Their fates were now intertwined, their success or failure about to be written in the stars. The hybrid vessel shuddered as they entered the planet's upper atmosphere, the void of space giving way to a turbulent sky. Behind them, a blinding flash illuminated the darkness. The battle cruiser had fired. Now, it was a race against the shockwave, with the fate of two species hanging in the balance. Balance. The shockwave hit with devastating force, slamming into the hybrid vessel and sending it into an uncontrolled spin. Alarms blared as the craft tumbled through space. Nicholas's hands flew across the controls, fighting to stabilize their trajectory. Tina's fingers danced over her console, desperately trying to maintain power to critical systems. "We've lost the port engine," Tina shouted over the cacophony of alerts. Attempting to reroute power, Nicholas gritted his teeth, using every ounce of his piloting skill to keep them from breaking apart. The viewport filled with a dizzying array of stars and debris as they spun. "Come on," he muttered, wrestling with the controls. Slowly, agonizingly, the craft's rotation began to slow. As they steadied, a new threat loomed before them. The planet's atmosphere stretched across the viewport, growing larger by the second. "Tina, we're on a collision course with the planet," Nicholas called out, his voice tense. "How are our re-entry systems?" Tina's face was illuminated by the red glow of warning lights. "Not good. Heat shields are at minimal capacity. We're going to have a rough ride." The craft shuddered as it hit the upper atmosphere. Outside, the void of space gave way to a fiery orange glow as friction superheated the air around them. Nicholas's eyes darted between the rapidly approaching ground and the craft's failing systems. "We need to slow our descent. Tina, can you give me any more power to the maneuvering thrusters?" "I'm trying," Tina responded, her voice strained. "Rerouting power from non-essential systems now." The craft lurched as the thrusters fired sporadically. Nicholas fought to maintain their trajectory, keenly aware that one wrong move could send them into an unrecoverable tumble. As they pierced through the cloud layer, the true extent of the planet's atmospheric disturbance became apparent. Massive storm systems swirled beneath them, a chaotic maelstrom of wind and lightning. "Nicholas, look." Tina pointed to a break in the storms, a small patch of clear sky amidst the turbulence. Nicholas nodded, adjusting their course. "I see it. It's our best shot at a controlled landing." As they descended further, the hybrid craft groaned under the strain. Pieces of the outer hull began to tear away, leaving a trail of debris in their wake. "Hull integrity at 60% and falling," Tina reported, her voice tight with tension. "We're losing our heat shielding." The temperature in the cockpit rose steadily as more of their protective layers were stripped away. Sweat beaded on Nicholas's forehead as he focused on guiding them through the narrow window of calm air. Suddenly, a vast expanse of water came into view. Nicholas's eyes widened as an idea struck him. Tina, the ocean. If we can hit it at the right angle, it might cushion our impact. Tina quickly grasped his plan, adjusting power distribution to reinforce the lower hull. It's our best chance. Nicholas angled the nose of the craft downward, aiming for the churning waters below. The hybrid vessel screamed through the air, trailing smoke and fire. "Brace for impact," Nicholas shouted as the ocean rushed up to meet them. The craft hit the water with a tremendous splash, skipping across the surface like a stone. The impact rattled every bone in their bodies, but the water did its job, slowing their momentum. As they finally came to a stop, bobbing in the turbulent sea, Nicholas and Tina shared a look of disbelief. They had survived. "Emergency buoyancy systems activated," Tina reported, her voice hoarse. "We should stay afloat for now." Nicholas nodded, unbuckling his harness with shaky hands. "Let's get topside. We need to signal for rescue." They climbed out of the battered craft onto its hull, now serving as a makeshift raft. The storm raged around them, wind and rain lashing at their faces as they surveyed the sky for signs of rescue. In the distance, barely visible through the storm clouds, shapes appeared on the horizon. Aircraft of some kind, approaching fast. "Incoming," Nicholas said, squinting against the rain. "But I can't tell if they're ours or Voth." Tina stood beside him, her expression a mix of relief and apprehension. "Either way, I suppose we're about to face the consequences of our actions." As the aircraft drew nearer, their uncertain forms growing clearer through the stormy haze, Nicholas and Tina stood side by side on their sinking vessel. Whatever came next, they would face it together, their shared ordeal having forged a bond that transcended their differences. The roar of engines grew louder, drowning out the howling wind as the rescue craft approached. Nicholas and Tina raised their hands, waving to attract attention, their eyes fixed on the incoming ships that would determine their fate. Fate! The roar of engines grew louder as the aircraft drew closer, their forms becoming clearer through the stormy haze. Nicholas squinted against the rain, his heart pounding as he tried to discern their origin. Suddenly, a powerful beam of light cut through the darkness, illuminating their makeshift raft. Nicholas raised a hand to shield his eyes, recognizing the distinct shape of a human search and rescue helicopter. "It's one of ours!" he shouted over the wind, relief flooding his voice. The helicopter skillfully maneuvered closer to the water's surface, its rotors whipping up a spray of seawater. A rescue basket was lowered, swinging in the turbulent air. Nicholas turned to Tina, his expression resolute. "You go first," he insisted, gesturing to the basket. Tina hesitated, her blue skin glistening with rain and seawater. "But your injuries—" "I'll be right behind you," Nicholas assured her, helping her towards the basket. As Tina was winched up to safety, Nicholas caught sight of another aircraft approaching, the sleek lines of a Voth atmospheric shuttle unmistakable even in the storm. The human rescue team worked quickly, lowering the basket once more. Nicholas clambered in, his muscles protesting as he was lifted from the sinking wreckage of their hybrid craft. Just as he was pulled into the helicopter, the Voth shuttle arrived, hovering nearby. Inside the helicopter, Nicholas found himself surrounded by a medical team. A woman with sharp eyes and steady hands approached him. "I'm Dr. Sarah Morris," she introduced herself, already assessing his injuries. "Xenobiologist. Don't worry, I'll take care of both of you." As Dr. Morris worked, Nicholas noticed the tense expressions of the crew. Outside, the human helicopter and Voth shuttle maintained their positions, neither willing to leave without their respective citizens. The radio crackled to life, filling the cabin with urgent voices as the pilots attempted to negotiate. Nicholas struggled to sit up, wincing at the pain. "Wait," he called out, his voice hoarse. "Let me speak to them." The pilot hesitated, then handed Nicholas the radio. Taking a deep breath, Nicholas addressed both craft. "This is Nicholas. We've just been through hell together," he said, glancing at Tina. "I propose we both be transferred to the Voth medical ship. Their facilities are better equipped to handle our unique situation." A tense silence followed, broken only by the howling wind outside. Then a gruff voice came through the radio. Admiral Zorn himself. "Proposal accepted," the Voth admiral stated. "Prepare for transfer." As if summoned by the admiral's words, a massive Voth medical ship appeared through the clouds, dwarfing the smaller craft. It extended a specialized docking tube, creating a safe passage for transfer. Nicholas and Tina were carefully moved into the Voth vessel, where they were met by a team led by Dr. Zan, a tall Voth with calculating eyes. "Fascinating," Dr. Zan murmured, already taking readings. "Your physiologies show remarkable adaptations." As the medical ship ascended to the turbulent atmosphere, Nicholas and Tina underwent a series of examinations. Dr. Zan's team discovered unexpected changes. Nicholas exhibited increased resistance to high-gravity conditions, while Tina displayed enhanced neural patterns reminiscent of human problem-solving processes. Their findings caught Admiral Zorn's attention. His face appeared on a nearby screen, his earlier skepticism replaced by grudging respect. "It seems your unorthodox methods have yielded unexpected results," Zorn admitted. "Lieutenant Kira was successfully retrieved moments before the asteroid's destruction. Her survival is a testament to both our technologies." As the medical ship docked with the battle cruiser, Nicholas felt a glimmer of hope for future cooperation between their species. However, the moment was short-lived. An urgent transmission from the planet's surface cut through the air. Commander Steele's voice was tense as he reported rapidly worsening atmospheric disturbances threatening to engulf the entire planet. Admiral Zorn's expression hardened as he processed the information. After a moment of contemplation, he made an unprecedented offer. "We will provide our battle cruisers full resources to stabilize the planet's atmosphere," he declared. "It's clear that only our combined efforts can avert this disaster." As preparations for this massive undertaking began, Nicholas, Tina, and the newly arrived Lieutenant Kira found themselves summoned to the battle cruiser's bridge. They stood before Admiral Zorn, facing a holographic projection of Commander Steele and a gathering of human and Voth scientists. Nicholas took a deep breath, acutely aware of the weight of the moment. The fate of the planet, and perhaps the future of human-Voth relations, now rested in their hands. As Admiral Zorn began to outline the situation, Nicholas steeled himself for the challenges that lay ahead, knowing that this was just the beginning of a monumental collaborative effort. As Admiral Zorn began outlining the situation, the bridge of the Voth battle cruiser buzzed with activity. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing the planet's turbulent atmosphere in vivid detail. Nicholas, Tina, and Lieutenant Kira stood at attention, their recent ordeal still fresh in their minds. "The situation is grave," Admiral Zorn stated, his reptilian features set in a grim expression. "Our initial efforts to prevent the asteroid collision have had unforeseen consequences." A new figure stepped forward, her scales a vibrant shade of green that stood out among the gathered Voth. "I am Dr. Alara Vex," she announced, her voice carrying a note of urgency. "I've been analyzing the planet's weather patterns, and I'm afraid the news is worse than we thought." Dr. Vex manipulated the holographic display, zooming in on swirling vortexes of cloud and lightning. The combination of the asteroid's near miss, our experimental storm dissipation technology, and the residual energy from the battle cruiser's weapons has created a perfect storm, quite literally. The hologram expanded, showing the entire planet engulfed in massive storm systems that seem to be merging into one colossal maelstrom. If we don't act quickly, Dr. Vex continued, this superstorm will render the entire planet uninhabitable within days. A tense silence fell over the bridge, broken only by the low hum of machinery. Commander Steele's holographic form shifted, his brow furrowed with concern. We have weather modification technology that could help, Steele offered. It's not as powerful as VOF systems, but it offers precise control. Admiral Zorn's tail twitched with agitation. Our battle cruisers' weather modification systems have the raw power to counteract this storm. We should deploy immediately. As the two leaders began to debate, Nicholas felt a spark of inspiration. He stepped forward, clearing his throat. If I may, sir, he addressed both Zorn and Steele, I think I have a solution. All eyes turned to Nicholas as he explained his idea to combine VOF and human technologies. Tina quickly caught on, adding her own insights about using their physiological changes to enhance the control systems. Lieutenant Kira nodded enthusiastically. I can lead a team to modify the battlecruiser systems. We can make this work. As the team began to implement the plan, alarms blared across the bridge. A VOF technician called out, Admiral, the superstorm's magnetic properties are interfering with our systems. We can't safely descend into the atmosphere. Dr. Vex's eyes widened. We need to deploy the technology directly into the storm's heart. It's the only way. Nicholas exchanged a glance with Tina, both realizing what needed to be done. We'll go, Nicholas volunteered. We have experience with a hybrid craft in extreme conditions. Admiral Zorn's scales rippled with concern, but he nodded grudgingly. Very well. Prepare a shuttle for modification. The next hours passed in a blur of activity. Nicholas and Tina found themselves in the battle cruiser's cavernous engineering bay, watching as human and VOF technicians swarmed over a sleek VOF atmospheric shuttle. Lieutenant Kira coordinated the efforts, her voice rising above the din of machinery and urgent conversations. Reinforce the hull plating here, Kira instructed, pointing to a holographic schematic. We need it to withstand wind speeds exceeding anything we've encountered before. Nearby, Dr. Vex worked with a mixed team of scientists, carefully assembling a device that looked like a cross between a VOF energy matrix and a human weather balloon. This atmospheric probe will be our eyes and ears in the storm, Dr. Vex explained as Nicholas approached. It's designed to provide real-time data and act as a focal point for our weather modification efforts. As the newly dubbed Stormbreaker shuttle neared completion, Nicholas and Tina began their training. They spent hours in a hastily constructed simulator, learning to navigate the hybrid controls through simulated storm conditions that pushed them to their limits. During a rare break, Nicholas wiped sweat from his brow and turned to Tina. How are you holding up? Tina flexed her fingers, wincing slightly. It's intense, but I think we're getting the hang of it. These new neural patterns are interesting. It's like I can anticipate the ship's movements before I even touch the controls. Their conversation was cut short by a violent tremor that shook the entire battle cruiser. Alarms blared as they rushed back to the bridge. The superstorm's effects are reaching us even in high orbit, Admiral Zorn reported, his usual composure slipping. We're running out of time. With a sense of urgency bordering on desperation, final preparations were made. Nicholas and Tina donned their flight suits, a seamless blend of human and VOF protective technology. The atmospheric probe was carefully loaded into the Stormbreaker's cargo hold. As they boarded the shuttle, Nicholas felt the weight of their mission settling on his shoulders. Tina caught his eye, her expression mirroring his own mix of dedication and apprehension. The launch bay doors began to open, revealing the chaotic maelstrom that engulfed the planet below. Swirling clouds lit by near-constant lightning filled their view, a sight both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Nicholas's hands settled on the controls, feeling the hybrid technology respond to his touch. Beside him, Tina initiated the pre-launch sequence, her movements fluid and precise. "Stormbreaker to bridge," Nicholas called out. "We're ready for launch." Admiral Zorn's voice crackled through the comm system. "You are cleared for launch. May the ancestors watch over you." As the magnetic clamps released, Nicholas felt a moment of weightlessness before the Stormbreaker's engines roared to life. The shuttle shot forward, leaving the relative safety of the battle cruiser behind. They plunged towards the planet, the Stormbreaker shuddering as it hit the outer layers of the atmosphere. Through the viewport, Nicholas could see the storm growing larger, its swirling patterns seemingly reaching out to engulf them. "Entering the upper atmosphere," Tina reported, her voice steady despite the increasing turbulence. "Prepare for initial storm contact in 3, 2, 1. The Stormbreaker plunged into the outer edges of the superstorm, immediately buffeted by winds stronger than anything they had experienced in training. Nicholas gripped the controls tightly, fighting to keep their trajectory stable as they descended further into the heart of the maelstrom. Lightning flashed around them, the shuttle's reinforced hull crackling with discharged energy. Tina's fingers danced over the control panel, constantly adjusting their shields and power distribution. "We're approaching the deployment zone," Tina called out over the roar of the storm. "Prepare to release the probe on my mark." Nicholas nodded, guiding the Stormbreaker through a particularly violent gust that threatened to send them into a spin. As they pushed deeper into the storm's core, the true scale of their challenge became apparent. The fate of an entire world rested on their ability to navigate this tempest and deploy their hybrid technology at precisely the right moment. Through the chaos of the storm, a small clearing appeared, the eye of the superstorm. Nicholas angled the Stormbreaker towards this momentary calm, knowing it was their best chance to deploy the atmospheric probe and begin their attempt to tame the planet-wide tempest, and unleash their experimental technology. As the Stormbreaker plunged into the eye of the storm, a moment of eerie calm enveloped them. The sudden absence of howling winds and battering debris was almost disorienting. Nicholas and Tina exchanged a brief glance, their faces illuminated by the glow of instrument panels and the intermittent flashes of lightning beyond their temporary sanctuary. The reprieve was short-lived. Their communication system crackled to life, Dr. Vex's voice barely audible through the static. "We're ING anomalous. Ergi readings. Core of the storm. Adieu. Your course." Before Tina could respond, the transmission cut out entirely. She frowned, fingers dancing across the control panel. "The electromagnetic interference is intensifying. We're flying blind in terms of communication with the cruiser." Nicholas nodded grimly, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to make split-second adjustments to their trajectory. "We'll have to rely on our own judgment from here on out." As they pushed deeper into the storm, the Stormbreaker's sensors began registering increasingly erratic readings. The hybrid craft shuddered violently as it encountered powerful wind shears and electrical discharges that seemed to defy the laws of physics. "Nicholas, look," Tina called out, pointing to a swirling vortex of energy directly ahead. The sight was both terrifying and mesmerizing, a maelstrom of crackling lightning and swirling debris that pulsed with an otherworldly glow. Nicholas's eyes widened as he processed the implications. That has to be the result of our combined technologies interacting. We need to get the probe as close to that as possible. Tina nodded, already making the necessary calculations. "Adjusting our flight path now." "But, Nicholas, the gravitational forces around that thing are off the charts. I'm not sure the Stormbreaker can handle it." As if to emphasize her point, warning alarms began blaring throughout the cockpit. The Voth-designed propulsion system was rapidly approaching critical levels, straining against the intense forces surrounding them. Tina's hands flew across the controls, her movements almost a blur as she implemented a series of rapid adjustments. I'm rerouting power from non-essential systems and reconfiguring our propulsion. It's not pretty, but it should give us the boost we need. Nicholas felt the change immediately, a surge of power coursing through the craft as human and Voth technologies merged in ways their designers had never intended. The stormbreaker lurched forward, cutting through the turbulent atmosphere with renewed vigor. As they spiraled towards the vortex's core, the shuttle was bombarded by an onslaught of debris and energy discharges. Nicholas's enhanced reflexes were pushed to their limits as he navigated through the chaos, narrowly avoiding collisions that would have torn a lesser craft apart. "Initiating probe launch sequence," Tina announced, her voice steady despite the maelstrom surrounding them. "We'll only get one shot at this." The tension in the cockpit was palpable as the countdown began. 3, 2, 1. With a resounding thud, the atmospheric probe detached from the stormbreaker, immediately caught in the swirling currents of the energy vortex. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed as if the device would be torn apart by the forces surrounding it. Then, almost miraculously, it stabilized, plunging deeper into the anomaly's core. "Probe successfully deployed," Tina confirmed, a note of relief in her voice. "Now comes the hard part, getting out of here alive." No sooner had the words left her mouth than the stormbreaker's engines began to fail. Warning lights flooded the cockpit as system after system reached critical levels. Nicholas gritted his teeth, muscles straining as he fought to maintain control of the craft. "Tina, I need everything you've got. We're not dying in this storm today." As Tina worked feverishly to keep their remaining systems online, Nicholas executed a series of maneuvers that pushed the limits of both the craft and his own enhanced physiology. The G-forces threatened to overwhelm them as the stormbreaker clawed its way out of the vortex's grasp. Suddenly, their senses detected a massive energy shift emanating from the probe's location. The storm's patterns began to change, swirling clouds dissipating as the vortex's power waned. "It's working," Tina exclaimed, her eyes fixed on the readings. "The storm is breaking up." Their elation was short-lived as a massive shockwave erupted from the collapsing vortex. The stormbreaker, already pushed far beyond its limits, shuddered violently as the wave struck. "Hull integrity failing," Tina reported, her voice tight with tension. "We've got multiple system failures. Nicholas, if we don't clear the atmosphere soon." She didn't need to finish the sentence. Nicholas poured every ounce of his concentration and enhanced abilities into guiding their battered craft towards the safety of space. The stormbreaker groaned and creaked around them, pieces of its outer hull peeling away as they ascended. As they broke through the upper atmosphere, the last of their propulsion systems failed. The craft drifted, powerless, its occupants battered and unresponsive. Through the cracked viewport, the dissipating storm could be seen below, a testament to their success even as their own fate hung in the balance. In the distance, the Voth battle cruiser loomed, a potential lifeline if they could be reached in time. As the stormbreaker tumbled slowly in the void, its systems dark and silent, the true cost of their mission remained uncertain. The planet below was saved, but the heroes who had risked everything to make it possible now faced their greatest challenge yet, surviving long enough to witness the fruits of their labor. As consciousness faded, Nicholas's last thought was a desperate hope that their sacrifice had been enough. The stormbreaker's tumbling trajectory did not go unnoticed. On the bridge of the Voth battlecruiser, Admiral Zorn's eyes locked onto the craft's fading energy signature. His mandibles clicked with a mixture of concern and admiration. "Initiate emergency retrieval operation," he ordered, his voice carrying a newfound respect for the human Voth team. "Deploy the hybrid rescue shuttle." Lieutenant Kira, a young Voth officer with an aptitude for cross-species technology, took command of the specially equipped vessel. The shuttle's sleek design incorporated the best of both worlds: Voth tractor beam technology, paired with human-designed life support systems. As Kira's shuttle approached the stricken stormbreaker, The full extent of the damage became apparent. The once proud vessel was now a shell of its former self, its hull scarred and twisted by the forces it had endured. "Initiating tractor beam lock," Kira reported, her clawed hands dancing across the control panel. The rescue shuttle shuddered as the energy field enveloped the stormbreaker, gently arresting its spin. Back on the battle cruiser, the hangar bay bustled with activity. Dr. Sarah Morris, the human xenobiologist, conferred with her Voth counterpart, Dr. Zan. They stood at the ready, surrounded by a mixed team of human and Voth medical personnel. "Remember," Dr. Morris cautioned, "we don't know what kind of physiological changes they might have undergone in that storm. Be prepared for anything." The rescue shuttle glided into the hangar, the battered stormbreaker suspended in its tractor beam. As the airlock sealed, Kira's voice crackled over the comm system. "Retrieval successful. Stormbreaker secure." The medical team sprang into action. Dr. Morris and Dr. Zan led the charge, their differences set aside in the face of a common goal. They reached the Stormbreaker's airlock, cutting tools at the ready. With a hiss of escaping air, the airlock gave way. Dr. Morris was the first inside, her eyes widening as she took in the scene. Nicholas and Tina lay motionless in their seats, their flight suits charred and torn. "We've got two unconscious but alive," she called out, her voice steady despite the tension. "Let's move." Working in tandem, the human and Voth medical staff carefully extracted Nicholas and Tina from the wreckage. As they were placed on hovering gurneys, Dr. Zan initiated preliminary scans. "Fascinating," the Voth doctor murmured, his elongated fingers tracing the holographic readouts. "Their physiologies have undergone significant alterations." Dr. Morris leaned in, her brow furrowed. "Nicholas's muscle density. It's off the charts. And Tina's neural patterns. I've never seen synaptic connections like this before." As they rushed towards the medical bay, Admiral Zorn's voice echoed through the ship's communication system. "Dr. Vex, report to the science lab immediately. We need a full analysis of the probe data." In the sterile confines of the medical bay, Nicholas and Tina were transferred to biobeds. A whir of advanced medical equipment filled the air as both human and Voth technology worked in concert to stabilize their conditions. Dr. Morris hovered over Nicholas, adjusting the settings on a cellular regenerator. "His body is adapting to the changes at an unprecedented rate," she noted, a mix of concern and excitement in her voice. Across the room, Dr. Zan focused on Tina. "Her neuroplasticity is remarkable," he reported. "It's as if her brain has been rewired for enhanced cognitive processing." As the medical team worked tirelessly, the battle cruiser hummed with activity. In the science lab, Dr. Alara Vex pored over the data transmitted by the atmospheric probe in its final moments. "This is incredible," she breathed, her eyes wide as she absorbed the information. "The storm's dissipation has triggered a cascading effect in the planet's atmosphere. It's healing itself." On the bridge, Admiral Zorn received the preliminary reports. His posture straightened, a sense of pride and possibility washing over him. With a decisive motion, he opened a channel to the Voth High Command. "High Command, this is Admiral Zorn," he began, his voice carrying the weight of history in the making. "I am pleased to report not only the success of our mission, but also to recommend continued collaboration with our human allies. The potential benefits are extraordinary." As Nicholas and Tina lay in their biobeds, their bodies adapting to the changes wrought by their ordeal, the seeds of a new era of human-Voth cooperation were being sown around them. The success of their mission had opened doors previously thought sealed shut, and the implications stretched far beyond the salvation of a single planet. In the dimly lit medical bay, Nicholas's eyes fluttered open, his vision blurry and unfocused. As consciousness slowly returned, he became aware of the soft beeping of medical equipment and the low hum of voices speaking in both human and Voth languages. He turned his head, wincing at the effort. To see Tina in the adjacent bed, her eyes beginning to open as well. Their gazes met, a mixture of relief, confusion, and shared accomplishment passing between them. As the medical staff noticed their awakening, a flurry of activity erupted around them. Nicholas and Tina exchanged a weak but triumphant smile, unaware of the full extent of their transformation or the far-reaching consequences of their actions. Their journey, it seemed, was nowhere near the end. As Nicholas and Tina regained consciousness, Dr. Morris and Dr. Zen rushed to their bedsides. The medical bay buzzed with activity as both human and VOF medical staff worked in tandem, monitoring the recovering patient's vital signs. "Welcome back," Dr. Morris said, her voice warm but tinged with professional curiosity. "How are you feeling?" Nicholas attempted to sit up, surprised by the ease with which he managed it. "Different," he replied, flexing his fingers experimentally. "Stronger, somehow." Tina blinked rapidly, her eyes darting around the room. "Everything seems clearer," she said, her brow furrowing. "I can process information faster than before." Dr. Zen nodded, his elongated fingers tapping at a holographic display. "Fascinating. Your physiologies have undergone significant alterations due to your exposure in the storm." Over the next few days, Nicholas and Tina became the focus of an intensive joint human-VOF research initiative. Dr. Morris and Dr. Zen collaborated closely, conducting a series of non-invasive tests to reveal the extent of their transformations. In a specially equipped laboratory, Nicholas stood shirtless, electrodes attached to his muscular frame. He lifted a series of increasingly heavy weights, each far beyond what he should have been capable of before the mission. "Incredible," Dr. Morris murmured, studying the readouts. "Your muscle density and bone structure have been fundamentally altered. You're exhibiting strength levels that exceed our highest recorded human baselines." Meanwhile, Tina sat at a console, her fingers flying across the interface as she solved complex mathematical equations and multidimensional puzzles. Dr. Zen observed her progress, his eyes widening with each completed task. "Your neuroplasticity is off the charts," he said, unable to hide his excitement. "You're processing information and solving problems at a rate that rivals our most advanced AI systems." As the research progressed, Dr. Morris and Dr. Zen developed a series of specialized exercises to help Nicholas and Tina adapt to their new abilities. A section of the VOF battle cruiser was converted into a training facility, combining elements of both human and VOF technology. Nicholas found himself in a high-gravity chamber, its walls lined with impact-resistant materials. He moved through a series of obstacle courses, each designed to push the limits of his enhanced strength and resilience. Leaping over electrified barriers and lifting impossibly heavy objects, he marveled at his body's newfound capabilities. In an adjacent room, Tina faced a barrage of holographic displays, each presenting her with complex scenarios ranging from theoretical physics problems to real-time battle strategy simulations. Her mind raced, processing information at an unprecedented speed, finding solutions to problems that would have stumped her just days before. As news of their successful mission and subsequent changes spread, Nicholas and Tina became the subject of intense interest from both human and VOF authorities. Admiral Zorn received a priority communication from the VOF High Command, his mandibles clicking as he processed the information. "They want us to transport Nicholas and Tina to a secure facility on our homeworld," he informed Commander Steele, who had just received his own set of orders from Earth. Steele's teeth gritted. "My superiors are insisting on continued human access for research purposes. This could complicate matters." The tension between the human and VOF leadership was palpable, threatening to strain the newly formed alliance. Nicholas and Tina, overhearing snippets of conversation during their daily examinations, exchanged worried glances. "We can't let them turn us into lab rats," Nicholas said quietly, his enhanced muscles tensing. Tina nodded, her mind already racing through potential scenarios. We need to take control of our own fate. There has to be a way. Using her augmented cognitive abilities, Tina began analyzing the legal frameworks of both species. She pored over data files, cross-referencing statutes and precedents at an astonishing speed. Nicholas stood guard, using his enhanced senses to ensure they weren't interrupted. "I think I've found something," Tina said after hours of intense research. "A loophole that could allow us to claim autonomy as a unique hybrid life form. It's a long shot, but it might be our best option." As they formulated their plan, activity on the planet's surface took an unexpected turn. Dr. Alara Vex, monitoring the situation from the battlecruiser, noticed alarming changes in the vegetation patterns. "Admiral," she reported, her voice tense, "the atmospheric healing process has triggered the emergence of new plant species. They're growing at an unprecedented rate and exhibiting unusual properties." Scans revealed that these new plants could rapidly absorb and process electromagnetic energy, similar to the conditions present in the dissipated superstorm. The implications were clear. If left unchecked, these plants could potentially disrupt communication systems and interfere with spacecraft operations. Lieutenant Kira, inspired by Nicholas and Tina's hybrid physiology, approached Admiral Zorn with a bold proposal. "Sir, what if we created a specialized team to investigate and contain these new plant species? We could expose volunteers to control conditions similar to what transformed Nicholas and Tina." Admiral Zorn considered the idea, his reptilian features unreadable. "It's risky, but the potential benefits." He turned to Commander Steele. "What's your assessment?" Steele nodded slowly. "It's worth exploring. We'll need to establish a joint task force to evaluate the feasibility." As preparations for this new initiative began, Nicholas and Tina completed their initial recovery and adaptation training. They were granted temporary autonomy, while both human and Voth authorities reviewed their legal claim and were assigned quarters on the battle cruiser with limited access to ship systems. The arrival of Ambassador Zex, a high-ranking Voth diplomat known for his pragmatic approach to interspecies relations, marked a critical juncture. As he boarded the battlecruiser, the air crackled with tension and possibility. Just as Ambassador Zex began his assessment, the battlecruiser's long-range sensors lit up with activity. An anomalous energy signature emanating from a nearby star system caught everyone's attention. "Initial analysis suggests advanced technology," reported the sensor officer, her voice filled with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "Possibly related to the atmospheric manipulation techniques we encountered on the planet." Nicholas and Tina exchanged glances, their enhanced abilities already processing the implications of this new development. As the crew scrambled to investigate the mysterious signal, it became clear that their adventure was not nearly finished. The unknown lay ahead, promising new challenges and discoveries that would test the limits of their newfound abilities and the strength of the fledgling human-Voth alliance. The anomalous energy signature pulsed on the long-range sensors, drawing the attention of every officer on the bridge. Admiral Zorn's scales rippled with anticipation as he studied the readouts. "Commander Steele, your assessment?" he asked, turning to his human counterpart. Steele's eyes narrowed as he analyzed the data. "It's unlike anything we've encountered before. The energy patterns share similarities with the atmospheric manipulation we saw on the planet." Admiral Zorn nodded, his decision already forming. "We need to investigate this immediately. Assemble a team for a reconnaissance mission." As the bridge erupted into a flurry of activity, Nicholas and Tina were summoned from their quarters. They arrived to find Admiral Zorn, Commander Steele, and the newly arrived ambassador, Zex, engaged in intense discussion. "Ah, excellent timing," Admiral Zorn said, gesturing for them to join the group. "We have a situation that requires your unique abilities." Ambassador Zex's eyes narrowed as he scrutinized Nicholas and Tina. "Are you certain this is wise, Admiral?" Their condition is still not fully understood. Precisely why they're our best option, Commander Steele interjected. Their enhanced physiology and cognitive abilities make them ideal for this mission. Nicholas stepped forward, his enhanced muscles rippling beneath his uniform. What's the mission, sir? Admiral Zorn activated a holographic display, showing the star system where the energy signature originated. We're sending a joint expedition to investigate this anomaly. You two will lead the mission. Tina's eyes widened, her augmented mind already processing the implications. Lead the mission? But we're still under evaluation. Consider this your field test, Ambassador Zek said, his tone carrying a hint of challenge. Over the next few hours, Nicholas and Tina were briefed on the details of their mission. They would be piloting a hybrid scout ship, christened the Nexus, outfitted with a combination of human and Voth technologies. As they made their way to the launch bay, Dr. Alara Vex intercepted them, her face flushed with excitement. I've made a breakthrough, she said, falling into step beside them. The energy signature bears striking similarities to the electromagnetic properties of those new plant species on the planet's surface. Nicholas frowned. You think there's a connection? It's a strong possibility, Dr. Vex replied. I've added my findings to your mission briefing. This could be crucial to understanding the changes occurring on the planet. They entered the launch bay to find Lieutenant Kira performing final checks on the Nexus. The sleek vessel gleamed under the bay lights, its hull a seamless blend of human and Voth design. She's all yours, Kira said, patting the ship's hull affectionately. I'll be your pilot for this mission. As they boarded the Nexus, a commotion at the bay entrance caught their attention. Dr. Morris and Dr. Zan hurried towards them, carrying equipment cases. Last-minute addition to the crew, Dr. Morris explained, slightly out of breath. Ambassador Zex insisted we join to continue monitoring your conditions. Nicholas and Tina exchanged a glance, silently acknowledging the underlying tension between the human and Voth factions. They helped the doctors stow their equipment, acutely aware of the added complexity to their mission. As the Nexus prepared for launch, Admiral Zorn's voice crackled over the comm system. We've received reports from the planet's surface. Human colonists have encountered a new alien species emerging from the forests. They're calling them Choros, due to their plant-like appearance. Tina's mind raced, connecting the dots between the energy signature, the new plant species, and now these Choros beings. Sir, do you think dash? Your mission parameters have been expanded, Admiral Zorn continued. In addition to investigating the energy source, you're now tasked with establishing first contact with the Choros. Your unique abilities may be crucial in facilitating communication. The launch bay doors slid open, revealing the vast expanse of space beyond. Lieutenant Kira's hands danced over the controls, guiding the Nexus out of the battle cruiser and towards the coordinates of the energy signature. As they accelerated away from the ship, Nicholas turned to Tina. Ready to make history? Tina nodded, her enhanced mind already formulating strategies for the challenges ahead. Let's see what's out there. The Nexus streaked through space, its hybrid engines humming with power. Inside, the crew worked to prepare for their encounter with the unknown. Dr. Morris and Dr. Zan set up a makeshift lab, continuing their research on Nicholas and Tina's enhanced physiologies while developing potential communication strategies for the Choros. As they approached the star system, Lieutenant Kira's voice cut through the focused silence. We're picking up some strange readings ahead. Looks like an asteroid field? Nicholas moved to the co-pilot seat, his enhanced vision scanning the sensor readouts. Not just any asteroid field. They're emitting low-level electromagnetic pulses. The view screen filled with a dense cluster of tumbling rocks, each pulsing with a faint, eerie glow. Kira's hands tightened on the controls. The pulses are interfering with our navigation systems. We'll have to go manual. I'll help, Nicholas said, his augmented reflexes kicking in as he took the secondary controls. Together, Nicholas and Kira guided the Nexus through the treacherous field, weaving between asteroids with breathtaking precision. Tina monitored the energy readings, her enhanced cognitive abilities processing the data streams at an unprecedented rate. "The signature's getting stronger," she reported. "It's coming from there." The sensors focused on a massive asteroid at the heart of the field. As they drew closer, the rock surface seemed to shift and change, revealing glimpses of metallic structures and pulsing organic growths. "It's artificial," Dr. Zem breathed, his elongated fingers flying over his console. "A structure of immense complexity, combining technology with organic components similar to the new flora on the planet." Before they could investigate further, a sudden jolt rocked the Nexus. Warning klaxons blared as the ship was caught in an invisible grip. "Tractor beam," Kira shouted, fighting the controls. "We're being pulled in." The Nexus's systems flickered and died as an electromagnetic pulse washed over them. Through the view screen, the crew watched helplessly as a cavernous opening yawned in the asteroid's surface, swallowing their ship into its depths. As emergency power flickered on, Nicholas turned to the crew, his enhanced muscles tense for action. "Suit up. We don't know what we're walking into, but we need to be ready for anything." Tina nodded, her mind already racing through possible scenarios. Whatever's in there, it's the key to understanding everything: the energy signature, the Choros, the changes on the planet. We need to find out what's connecting it all. As they donned their environmental suits, the Nexus came to rest in a vast, alien docking area. Through the viewports, they could see a landscape of twisting metal and pulsing, bioluminescent plant-like growths. The structure seemed to breathe, an impossible fusion of technology and organic life. Nicholas stood by the airlock, his hand hovering over the release. He looked at each member of the crew, noting the mix of fear and purpose in their eyes. "Remember our mission. We're here to investigate, establish contact if possible, and find answers. Stay alert, stay together." With a hiss of equalizing pressure, the airlock opened. Nicholas took the first step into the alien environment, his enhanced senses on high alert. The air was thick with an electric charge, making the hair on the back of his neck stand up. As the rest of the crew followed him out, Tina gasped, her augmented vision taking in details the others couldn't yet see. "Look at the walls," she whispered. "They're covered in some kind of living circuitry." The team moved deeper into the structure, each step taking them further into a world that defied their understanding of biology and technology. Ahead, a pulsing light grew stronger, drawing them towards the heart of the asteroid and the answers they sought. As they rounded a corner, the team found themselves in a vast chamber, its walls pulsing with an otherworldly glow. Suddenly, they were surrounded. Bioluminescent, plant-like organisms swarmed around them, their tendrils swaying in an unseen current. Nicholas instinctively moved to the front of the group, his enhanced muscles tensing as he prepared to defend his team. "Wait," Tina said, her voice barely above a whisper. Her augmented mind raced, processing the intricate patterns of light emanating from the creatures. "They're trying to communicate." The swarm parted, revealing a larger, more elaborate entity. Its form was a mesmerizing blend of flora and fauna, with crystalline structures interwoven throughout its body. As it approached, the light patterns intensified, creating a hypnotic display. Dr. Morris fumbled with a device on her belt, her fingers trembling slightly as she activated it. "The translation matrix," she explained. "It might be able to decipher their light language." The device hummed to life, its screen flickering as it attempted to process the complex patterns. Doctorson moved closer, his elongated fingers dancing across a handheld monitor. "Fascinating," he murmured. "The electromagnetic field in here is affecting our physiology. Nothing dangerous, but notable." Nicholas kept his eyes fixed on the approaching entity. Any progress with that translation, Dr. Morris? Before she could answer, the device chimed. A synthesized voice emerged from its speaker, translating the light patterns into words. Welcome, travelers. We are the Choros, guardians of balance. Tina stepped forward, her enhanced cognitive abilities allowing her to process and respond faster than her companions. We come in peace. We seek understanding. The Elder Choros, as the team silently dubbed it, pulsed with a softer light. Your world is in flux. Our intervention was necessary, but imperfect. Dr. Morris's eyes widened. The superstorm? That was you? A regrettable side effect, the Elder Choros replied. We sought to correct the damage caused by previous alterations to your world's ecosystem. Nicholas frowned. Previous alterations? You mean the Voth terraforming? The Elder Choros' light pattern shifted, conveying what seemed like affirmation. We are caretakers of cosmic ecology. Your world's balance was threatened. We acted. As the conversation continued, Lieutenant Kira's voice crackled over their comms. Team, I've secured the Nexus, but there's something you should know. The energy field here is interacting with our systems in ways I've never seen before. It's like the ship is adapting to this environment. Dr. Zan's eyes narrowed. Fascinating. The biomechanical nature of this structure must be influencing our hybrid technology. The Elder Choros gestured with a tendril, inviting them deeper into the structure. As they walked, they passed chambers filled with suspended animation pods, each containing a Choros individual. Our kin, the Elder explained, adapted for various worlds, ready to deploy where needed. They reached a central hub, its walls lined with pulsing organic circuitry. The Elder turned to Nicholas and Tina. Your hybrid nature intrigues us. Would you interface with our data core? There is much to share. Nicholas and Tina exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. They nodded in unison. As they connected to the data core, information flooded their enhanced minds. Millennia of history, countless worlds tended, the delicate balance of ecosystems across the galaxy. It all poured into their consciousness. Tina gasped as a troubling realization hit her. Our world. The changes are accelerating. The new plant species, the Choros emerging on the surface. It's all part of a larger transformation. Dr. Morris and Dr. Zen huddled over their devices, analyzing the data. She's right, Dr. Morris confirmed. The ecosystem is shifting faster than anticipated. If we don't act soon. The Elder Choros' light dimmed. We propose an alliance. Humans, Voth, and Choros together, we may yet stabilize your world and pioneer new methods of cosmic ecological care. Nicholas's mind raced with the implications. An alliance could change everything. But how do we begin? The Elder's form shimmered. We can send a group with you to assist immediately, but it would require using our bioreactor to create a wormhole for swift travel. The process is not without risk. The team exchanged looks, the weight of the decision heavy upon them. Time was running out, and the fate of their world hung in the balance. We need to discuss this, Nicholas said, his voice tight with the tension of the moment. The potential benefits are enormous, but so are the risks. As the team huddled together, their voices low and urgent, the biomechanical asteroid hummed around them. The decision they were about to make would not only affect their home planet, but could reshape the approach to ecosystem management across the galaxy. The Elder Choros waited patiently, its bioluminescent patterns pulsing slowly, as the team grappled with the monumental choice before them. Nicholas took a deep breath, his enhanced physiology allowing him to remain calm despite the weight of the decision. We accept your offer, he said, his voice steady. The risks are significant, but the potential benefits for our world and countless others are too great to ignore. Tina nodded in agreement, her augmented mind already calculating the probabilities of success. We're ready to proceed. The elder Choros pulsed with approval. Then let us begin. Time is of the essence. As the team prepared for departure, Dr. Morris and Dr. Zen worked feverishly to modify the Nexus's life support systems. Their fingers flew over control panels, adjusting atmospheric composition and humidity levels to accommodate their new plant-like passengers. "This is incredible," Dr. Morris muttered, her eyes wide as she observed the Choros boarding the ship. "Their biology is like nothing I've ever seen." 3 specialized Choros individuals joined the Elder, each adapted for specific ecological tasks. As they entered the Nexus, the ship's interior seemed to respond, the walls pulsing with a faint bioluminescence. Lieutenant Kira's voice crackled over the comm system. "We're ready for launch. The bioreactor is powering up." The vast chamber around them began to vibrate, a low hum building to a crescendo. Through the viewports, they could see energy coalescing, forming the swirling vortex of a wormhole. "Brace yourselves," Nicholas called out, gripping a nearby console. The Nexus surged forward, entering the wormhole just as the asteroid structure began to collapse. A massive shockwave of energy propelled them forward, pushing the ship's hybrid systems to their limits. Inside the wormhole, reality seemed to twist and bend. The Choros passengers emitted intense patterns of light, their bioluminescence interacting with the ship's systems in unexpected ways. Tina gasped as she observed the ship's hull through an internal monitoring system. "The hull! It's changing!" Small, plant-like protrusions sprouted from the Nexus's exterior, spreading rapidly across its surface. These organic growths seemed to stabilize the ship against the wormhole's intense forces. Nicholas gritted his teeth as he manually operated the ship's stabilizers, his enhanced strength allowing him to compensate for the failing automated systems. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he fought to keep the Nexus on course. Meanwhile, Tina's mind raced as she coordinated with the Choros, interpreting the flood of data streaming through the ship's computers. Her augmented cognitive abilities allowed her to process the information at an unprecedented rate. "We're off course." Lieutenant Kira's voice cut through the chaos. "There's a massive gravitational anomaly dead ahead." The ship's controls sluggishly responded to Kira's commands, the ongoing biomechanical transformations affecting their responsiveness. In that critical moment, Nicholas and Tina locked eyes. Without a word, they both knew what they had to do. Drawing on their hybrid physiology, they established a direct neural link with the ship's systems. The connection was unlike anything they had experienced before. Their consciousness expanded, merging with the Nexus itself. They could feel every vibration, every surge of energy coursing through the ship's frame. Working in perfect synchronization, Nicholas and Tina guided the Nexus through the gravitational anomaly. Their enhanced reflexes and cognitive abilities allowed them to make split-second adjustments, weaving through the distorted space-time around them. With a final, wrenching lurch, the Nexus burst out of the wormhole. The view screen filled with the sight of an unfamiliar star system, a blue-green planet dominating the view. As the crew regained their bearings, they stared in awe at the ship's internal displays. The Nexus had undergone a dramatic transformation, its hull now covered in a lattice of bioluminescent, plant-like growths. The fusion of Choros biotechnology with the human-Voth hybrid systems had created something entirely new. Dr. Zan's elongated fingers danced over a console, his eyes wide with excitement. "Fascinating. We're not in our home system. The gravitational anomaly must have thrown us off course." The Choros passengers began to pulse with increased intensity, their light patterns shifting rapidly. The elder Choros turned to the crew, its synthesized voice filled with urgency. "We sense a world nearby, similar to your home. Its ecosystem. It calls to us." Lieutenant Kira brought the ship closer to the planet, activating long-range scanners. The results made everyone pause. "I'm detecting signs of an advanced civilization," Kira reported. "Massive orbital structures and the surface. It looks like they're conducting large-scale environmental engineering." The Choros expressed great interest, their light patterns becoming even more intricate. "This world's ecosystem," the elder Choros explained, "it mirrors the delicate balance of your home planet. We must investigate." As they approached the planet, Nicholas and Tina, still connected to the ship systems, received a flood of data. Their eyes widened in unison as they processed the information. "This is incredible," Tina breathed. "The inhabitants of this world, they're called the architects. They've been observing and influencing ecosystems across the galaxy for thousands of years." Nicholas nodded, his expression a mix of awe and commitment. "Their technology, their knowledge, it could be exactly what we need to save our home." The Nexus moved into orbit around the planet, its hybrid systems humming with newfound energy. But as they drew closer, an invisible force pushed against the ship, growing stronger with each passing moment. Lieutenant Kira's hands flew over the controls. "We're encountering some kind of energy barrier. It's actively resisting our approach." The ship shuddered as the barrier intensified, pushing them back with increasing force. The crew exchanged worried glances, realizing that making contact with the architects would not be as simple as they had hoped. Nicholas, his mind still linked with the ship's systems, frowned in concentration. "We need to find a way to communicate with them, to prove we're not a threat." Tina nodded, her augmented mind already formulating potential strategies. "If their technology is as advanced as it seems, they must have detected our arrival. We need to show them we're here with peaceful intentions." As the Nexus hung in space, caught between the push of the energy barrier and the pull of the planet's gravity, the crew faced a new challenge. They had to find a way to breach the architects' defenses, gain their trust, and hopefully acquire the knowledge and technology needed to save their home planet. The ship continued to evolve around them, the fusion of human, Voth, and Choros elements reshaping their reality in ways they were only beginning to understand. With each passing moment, the urgency of their mission grew, as did the potential for discovery. Nicholas turned to the assembled crew, his expression resolute. "All right, everyone, we need ideas. How do we make first contact with a civilization that doesn't seem to want to be contacted?" As the team began to brainstorm, the transformed Nexus hung in space, a testament to the unprecedented alliance of three species. Before them lay a world of untold possibilities, and perhaps the key to saving not just their home, but countless planets across the galaxy. The tension in the air was palpable as the crew wrestled with their next move. Suddenly, Nicholas's eyes lit up. "I have an idea," he said, turning to Tina. "We can use the ship's new biomechanical properties to our advantage." Tina nodded, her augmented mind already racing ahead. "Of course, if we integrate the Choros' bioluminescent signaling with our communication systems, we could create a unique way to reach out to the architects," Nicholas finished. The two of them quickly explained their plan to the rest of the crew. Dr. Morris and Dr. Zen immediately set to work, their fingers flying over consoles as they began to analyze the energy barrier. "Fascinating," Dr. Zen murmured, his elongated fingers tracing patterns in the air. "This barrier isn't just defensive. It's a complex information network." Dr. Morris nodded in agreement. "It's almost as if they're using it to evaluate visitors. Testing for compatibility, perhaps?" Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kira focused on piloting, her brow furrowed in concentration as she maneuvered the Nexus into a stable orbit. As she worked, she noticed something peculiar. The barrier's intensity. "It's not uniform," she called out. "There are fluctuations, almost like entry points." Nicholas, hearing this, moved to one of the newly grown biomechanical interfaces. As he touched it, he felt a strange connection, as if the ship was an extension of his own body. With careful movements, he began to manipulate the external structure of the Nexus, altering its appearance and energy signature. Tina, her eyes closed in concentration, began to decipher the patterns in the barrier's fluctuations. "I think I'm starting to understand their communication method," she said softly. "It's unlike anything we've seen before." The Choros passengers, sensing the delicate balance of the planet below, began to emit complex patterns of light. These bioluminescent signals, when combined with the ship's modified systems, created a unique hybrid message. As the team prepared to broadcast their signal, the planet below came to life. Massive structures on the surface began to shift and reconfigure, while the orbital platforms adjusted their positions. Suddenly, a beam of energy shot out from one of the platforms, striking the Nexus. Instead of damage, the crew felt a rush of information flooding through the ship's systems. "They're making contact," Tina exclaimed, her legs shaking from the influx of data. The energy beam began to guide the Nexus through the barrier. Lieutenant Kira followed its lead, navigating through a series of fluctuating fields that seemed to be analyzing every aspect of the ship and its occupants. As they passed through the final layer, the Nexus emerged into a vast constructed space just above the planet's atmosphere. The crew gasped in awe at the sight of enormous biomechanical structures that dwarfed their ship. A large platform extended from one of these structures, clearly intended as a docking point. As Lieutenant Kira carefully maneuvered towards it, the Nexus's hull began to change once more, extending tendrils that intertwined with similar structures on the platform. "We're integrating with their facility," Dr. Morris observed, her voice filled with wonder. Nicholas led the team in donning their environmental suits as the airlock cycled. The Choros passengers prepared their bioluminescent abilities for potential communication. As the airlock opened, the team stepped into a vast chamber filled with swirling lights and shifting structures. In the center stood a group of tall, ethereal beings, the architects. Their bodies seemed to be in constant flux, a mesmerizing blend of organic and technological components. Nicholas took a deep breath, surprised to find he could breathe normally. The chamber had already adapted to their needs. As they approached the architects, holographic displays sprang to life around them, showing detailed information about their home planet and even the team members themselves. The lead architect stepped forward, its form rippling with energy. Its method of communication was unlike anything they had experienced, a combination of telepathic impressions, holographic imagery, and modulated energy fields that translated directly into understandable concepts in their minds. "Welcome." The architect's thoughts resonated in their minds. "We have been observing your world for some time. Your arrival is fortuitous." The architect began to share information about their role as caretakers of galactic ecosystems. They expressed concern about the rapid changes on the team's home planet and the potential for ecological collapse. As the initial exchange concluded, the architect presented them with a choice. "We can provide you with the knowledge and technology to stabilize your world's ecosystem," it communicated. "However, this will require each of you to undergo a process of biomechanical augmentation. You will be permanently altered, gaining the ability to directly manipulate and restore ecosystems across multiple worlds." The team exchanged glances, the weight of this decision heavy upon them. Nicholas and Tina, already partially transformed, found themselves intrigued by the offer. The others, however, hesitated, unsure of the implications. As they deliberated, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Holographic displays flashed urgent warnings, showing a massive fleet of ships entering the star system. "The Harvesters," the architect's thoughts rang out, tinged with concern. "A species that exploits and destroys planetary ecosystems for their own gain." The team found themselves at a crossroads. Accept the architect's offer and defend not just their world, but potentially countless others, or seek an alternative solution that might allow them to save their home without such a drastic personal transformation. As the alarms continued to blare and the holographic displays showed the approaching fleet, Nicholas turned to his team, his expression resolute. "We need to make a decision," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "And we need to make it now. Fast." Time was running out. As if in response to his thoughts, the facility shuddered violently. The holographic displays flickered, showing massive ships entering the system's outer reaches. The harvesters, the architect's thoughts resonated with urgency. "We must act now." Nicholas turned to his team, his eyes reflecting the gravity of the situation. "We don't have the luxury of time for debate. Who's willing to undergo the augmentation?" Tina stepped forward without hesitation. "I'm in. We've already been partially transformed. This is the next logical step." Lieutenant Kira nodded, her face set with purpose. "Count me in. If this is what it takes to save our world and others, I'm ready." Dr. Morris and Dr. Zen exchanged glances, then shook their heads. "We'll be more useful with our current expertise," Dr. Morris explained. "We can analyze their technology, find weaknesses." The Choros passengers pulsed with increased intensity, their light patterns conveying their readiness to assist. The lead architect gestured, and 3 chambers materialized from the shifting walls. "Enter quickly. The process will be intense but brief." Nicholas, Tina, and Kira stepped into the chambers. As the doors sealed, biomechanical tendrils emerged from all sides, enveloping them in a cocoon of pulsing energy. The sensation was overwhelming, a rush of information flooding their minds as their bodies transformed at the cellular level. Outside, Dr. Morris and Dr. Zan hurried back to the Nexus, their fingers flying over consoles as they began analyzing the incoming harvester fleet. The Choros dispersed across the planet's surface, their bioluminescent signals creating a vast network of living sensors. Minutes later, the chamber doors hissed open. Nicholas emerged first, his skin now bearing a subtle metallic sheen. Bioluminescent patterns rippled across his body in sync with his thoughts. He flexed his fingers, marveling at the newfound connection he felt to the very air around him. Tina followed, her eyes glowing with an inner light as she processed vast amounts of data streaming through her enhanced mind. Lieutenant Kira was the last to step out, her movements fluid and precise, already adapting to her augmented reflexes. The lead architect guided them to a central command hub. A massive holographic display materialized, showing the harvester fleet entering orbit. Dozens of ships, each dripping with energy-draining equipment, positioned themselves around the planet. The Ravager, the architect's thoughts conveyed, highlighting a colossal vessel at the fleet center. Their flagship. It carries a weapon capable of destabilizing planetary cores. Nicholas reached out, his mind interfacing directly with the planet's defense network. He felt the pulse of energy barriers and the hum of massive structures rising from the surface to create a secondary shield. Tina's eyes darted across the holographic display, her augmented mind analyzing attack patterns and predicting trajectories. "They're deploying smaller craft," she announced. "Heading for the surface." Lieutenant Kira stepped forward, connecting with the architect's spacecraft systems. With a thought, she mobilized a defensive squadron, coordinating their movements to intercept the incoming threats. The battle erupted in earnest. The sky above the planet lit up with energy pulses as the harvester's ships clashed with the defensive systems. On the surface, massive drills began to pierce the ground, their energy-siphoning equipment activating with an ominous hum. Nicholas focused his newfound abilities, directing surges of defensive energy to disrupt the drills. He felt the strain of each pulse, the power flowing through him like an electric current. Tina's voice cut through the chaos. "The Ravager is charging its main weapon. Impact in 10 minutes. Dr. Morris's voice crackled over the communication system. We've found a weakness in their energy-draining devices. Sending the data now. As the information flowed into their augmented minds, Nicholas formulated a plan. "We need to use the Nexus," he said, his voice carrying the weight of command. Its hybrid systems could deliver a concentrated burst of defensive energy directly to the Ravager's weapon core. The lead architect's thoughts resonated with approval. A bold strategy, but it would require precise timing and navigation through their defenses. Lieutenant Kira stepped forward, her eyes gleaming with purpose. "I'll do it. My connection to the Nexus is strongest, and with these augmented reflexes, I have the best chance of making it through." Nicholas wanted to argue, to find another way, but he knew there was no time. The holographic display showed the Ravager's weapon reaching critical levels, its energy signature threatening to overload the planet's defenses. As Kira prepared to board the Nexus, the team exchanged quick, intense glances. Words were unnecessary. Their augmented minds conveyed volumes in that brief moment. Kira's voice came through the communication system as the Nexus launched. "Approaching the Harvester fleet now. The Nexus's systems are responding beautifully to the new biomechanical interface." Nicholas and Tina took up positions at the command hub, coordinating the planet's defenses. The Choros intensified their efforts, their bioluminescent signals, creating barriers of living light to slow the Harvester's ground forces. The Ravager's weapon reached full charge, its energy signature spiking on the holographic display. Kira's voice came through once more, tense but controlled. "Initiating final approach, preparing to deliver the energy burst." Nicholas watched the display, his augmented senses allowing him to perceive every detail of the unfolding battle. The Nexus, now a hybrid of human, Voth, and Choros technology, streaked towards a Ravager, weaving through a storm of energy weapons and debris. As the Ravager's weapon began to fire, the Nexus collided with its energy stream. For a moment, everything seemed to hang in perfect stillness. Then, a blinding flash erupted at the point of impact, and the command hub systems overloaded, plunging everything into darkness. Darkness. The shockwave from the collision temporarily overloaded the facility systems, plunging the command hub into chaos. As emergency lights flickered to life, Nicholas blinked rapidly, his augmented vision adjusting to the sudden change. The holographic displays sputtered and stabilized, revealing a scene of destruction in orbit. The Ravager listed heavily, its main weapon a twisted mass of metal and energy, but the Nexus was nowhere to be seen. "Kira, do you copy?" Nicholas called out, his voice tight with concern. Static crackled through the communication channels. Tina's fingers danced over the controls, her enhanced mind processing vast amounts of data. "I'm picking up interference across all frequencies. The explosions causing havoc with our sensors." As the interference began to clear, the full impact of Kira's sacrifice became apparent. The Ravager's primary weapon had been destroyed, but at a terrible cost. Nicholas felt a pang of loss, quickly suppressed as he focused on the task at hand. "The Harvesters are changing tactics," Tina announced, her eyes flickering with data streams. "They're shifting to a ground assault." Nicholas nodded grimly. "Then we meet them on the surface. Tina, coordinate with the Choros. We need to slow their advance." They raced to the planet's surface, their augmented bodies allowing them to move with inhuman speed and precision. As they emerged onto a vast plain, they saw the first wave of Harvester dropships descending through the atmosphere. Nicholas reached out with his mind, connecting to the planet's defensive network. He felt the surge of energy as massive structures rose from the ground, creating a secondary shield to protect key areas. Tina linked with the Choros, her thoughts merging with their bioluminescent signals. Across the landscape, native flora began to respond. Thorny vines erupted from the soil, entangling the landing gear of harvester craft. Dense thickets sprang up, impeding the progress of enemy ground forces. It's working, Tina called out, her voice tinged with exertion. But they're adapting quickly. Nicholas nodded, his attention split between coordinating the rising biomechanical barriers and monitoring the ongoing space battle. He directed pulses of energy that disrupted Harvester communication networks, sowing confusion among their ranks. As they fought to repel the invasion, Dr. Morris's voice crackled through their comms. We've found a weakness in their energy-draining devices. They're vulnerable to specific electromagnetic frequencies. Tina's eyes lit up with rekindled determination. If we can exploit that, we might be able to turn the tide. Their momentary hope was cut short as a new alert blared through their augmented senses. The Harvesters had identified the Choros as key targets, recognizing their crucial role in coordinating the ecosystem's defense. They're going after the Choros, Tina exclaimed, her voice tight with alarm. Nicholas's mind raced, calculating possibilities and potential outcomes. We need to rescue them. The Architect's matter transportation technology might give us an edge. Tina stepped forward, her body already adapting to the challenge ahead. I'll go. My augmentations make me the best candidate for infiltration. Nicholas hesitated, concern etched on his face, but he knew she was right. Be careful. We can't afford to lose you too. As Tina prepared for her daring rescue mission, the Architects provided her with additional enhancements. Her skin rippled, adapting a chameleon-like ability to blend with her surroundings. She felt her muscles' density increase, granting her improved strength and agility. In orbit, the Harvester fleet regrouped, their remaining ships forming a tight, defensive formation. The energy field they generated threatened to overwhelm the planet's weakened defenses. Nicholas, his attention divided between Tina's mission and the ongoing battle, reached out to the Architects. We need help. Are there any allies nearby? The lead Architect's thoughts resonated in his mind. The symbiotes, a race from a neighboring system, have long opposed the Harvesters. We will send a distress call, but their arrival may not be swift. As Tina vanished in a shimmer of transported energy, bound for the heart of the Harvester ground bases, Nicholas turned his focus to holding the line. He directed the planet's defensive systems, each pulse of energy feeling like an extension of his own body. The Harvesters pressed their advantage, their troops advancing under the cover of their ship's energy field. Nicholas coordinated with the remaining Choros, using their bioluminescent network to predict enemy movements and counter their assaults. In the midst of the chaos, a faint signal caught Nicholas's attention. A familiar energy signature, weak but unmistakable, pulsed at the edge of the planetary defense grid. The Nexus, he breathed, hope rising in his chest. It's still out there. As Nicholas fought to maintain the planet's defenses and Tina embarked on her perilous rescue mission, the fate of their world and countless others hung in the balance. The Harvesters prepared for their next big push, while the defending forces braced for impact, clinging to the hope that help would arrive in time. The battle raged on, a testament to the power of cooperation and the indomitable spirit of those fighting to protect not just their own world, but the delicate balance of ecosystems across the galaxy. The command hub crackled with renewed energy as Dr. Morris's voice cut through the chaos. Nicholas, we've made a breakthrough. Our analysis of the Harvester technology has yielded results. Nicholas's augmented mind instantly shifted focus, processing the new information while maintaining his grip on the planet's defenses. Go ahead, Doctor. What have you found? We developed a prototype device, Dr. Morris explained, his excitement palpable even through the static field transmission. It can amplify specific electromagnetic frequencies that disrupt the Harvester's energy-draining equipment. Nicholas's eyes widened, the bioluminescent patterns on his skin pulsing with increased intensity. He turned to the lead Architect, their thoughts synchronizing instantly. We need to mass-produce these devices immediately. Can your fabrication systems handle it? The architect's response came as a surge of affirmative energy through their shared mental link. Within moments, the architect's advanced manufacturing facilities hummed to life, churning out the electromagnetic disruptors at an astonishing rate. Nicholas's augmented mind raced, formulating a new strategy. He reached out to the teams of defenders scattered across the planet's surface, their augmented abilities allowing for instant communication. "I'm dispatching teams to strategic locations," he announced, his voice resonating with newfound purpose. "Each unit will be equipped with the new disruptors. Target the Harvester's energy-draining installations as your top priority." As the defenders mobilized, Nicholas turned his attention to Tina's mission. He watched through the facility's sensors as she approached the Harvester ground base, her skin shifting and adapting to blend seamlessly with her surroundings. Tina moved with preternatural grace, her augmented reflexes allowing her to slip past the Harvester perimeter defenses undetected. As she infiltrated deeper into the alien facility, her enhanced vision revealed the true horror of the Harvester's plans. In a vast chamber filled with pulsing biomechanical equipment, Tina saw captured Choros suspended in translucent pods. Harvester scientists moved between the containers, extracting glowing strands of genetic material from the helpless creatures. Tina's augmented mind quickly processed the implications. "Nicholas," she whispered into their shared communication channel, "they're not just draining energy. They're trying to steal the Choros' genetic information." Nicholas's response was immediate. "We can't let them succeed. Free the Choros and get them out of there." With silent efficiency, Tina moved through the facility, disabling security systems and freeing the captive Choros. As the last pod hissed open, however, an alarm blared through the complex. Tina's camouflage flickered as she spun to face the approaching Harvester guards. "Go!" she shouted to the weakened Choros, her body shifting into a combat stance. As the first wave of guards rounded the corner, Tina exploded into action. Her augmented muscles propelled her forward with inhuman speed, closing the distance before the Harvesters could bring their weapons to bear. In a blur of motion, Tina engaged the guards in close combat. Her enhanced strength and reflexes allowed her to dance between their attacks, striking with precision and power. As she fought, she caught glimpses of the Choros slipping away through the chaos. Back at the command hub, Nicholas divided his attention between Tina's perilous mission and the escalating space battle. The Harvester fleet, reeling from the loss of their flagship, had regrouped into a tight defensive formation. Their remaining ships generated a powerful energy field that threatened to overwhelm the planet's weakened defenses. Nicholas's fingers danced across the holographic controls, redirecting power to critical shield generators. "We need more firepower," he muttered, his augmented mind calculating their rapidly diminishing odds. As if in answer to his plea, a new signal appeared on the long-range sensors. A fleet of sleek, organic-looking ships emerged from the depths of space, their hulls pulsing with vibrant bioluminescence. "The symbiotes," Nicholas breathed, relief washing over him. They made it. The symbiote fleet wasted no time, their ships moving with fluid grace as they engaged the Harvester forces. Advanced bioweapons lashed out, tearing through the enemy's energy fields with ease. On the planet's surface, the effects of the electromagnetic disruptors became apparent. Harvester energy-draining devices sputtered and died, their alien circuitry overloaded by the precisely tuned frequencies. As the invaders' technology failed, the planet's native flora surged back to life, guided by the collective will of the Choros. Massive vines erupted from the earth, entangling Harvester ground forces. Forests of razor-sharp crystal formations sprouted in strategic locations, creating natural barriers against the alien advance. The tide of battle was turning, but the fight was not nearly finished. As Nicholas coordinated the final push against the Harvesters, an unexpected signal caught his attention. A small, heavily damaged craft was approaching the planet, its energy signature unmistakable. "The Nexus," Nicholas gasped, his augmented vision zooming in on the battered vessel. And there's a life sign aboard. It's Kira. Without hesitation, Nicholas dispatched a team of architects to intercept the Nexus and bring Lieutenant Kira to safety. As the rescue mission unfolded, he refocused on the battle at hand, determined to see this conflict through to its end. With the combined might of the architects, augmented defenders, Choros, and symbiotes arrayed against them, the Harvester forces began to crumble. Their remaining ships, outgunned and outmaneuvered, turned to flee the system. On the ground, the last pockets of Harvester resistance found themselves cut off and surrounded. Teams equipped with electromagnetic disruptors systematically neutralized their remaining technology, rendering the invaders powerless. As the immediate threat subsided, Nicholas took a moment to assess the damage. The planet's ecosystems had suffered greatly, but already he could see signs of recovery. The Choros were hard at work, their bioluminescent signals guiding the regeneration of damaged habitats. Tina's voice crackled over the communication system. "Mission accomplished," she reported, exhaustion evident in her tone. "The captured Choros are safe, and I've acquired valuable intel on Harvester operations." Nicholas nodded, a small smile playing across his face. "Well done, Tina. Get back to base. We have a lot of work ahead of us." As the dust settled on the battlefield, Nicholas turned his attention to the future. The alliance forged in the heat of conflict, humans, architects, Choros, and symbiotes, held the potential to reshape the galaxy. But for now, there was a planet to heal and countless other worlds to protect from the Harvester threat. The Nexus, carrying the barely alive form of Lieutenant Kira, descended through the planet's atmosphere, a symbol of both their hard-fought victory and the challenges that lay ahead. Ahead, Nicholas watched as the craft touched down, his augmented vision picking up every detail of its battered hull. As soon as the Nexus's hatch opened, a team of architects rushed forward, their bioluminescent appendages gently lifting Kira's unconscious form. Nicholas hurried to join them, his heart racing as he saw the extent of her injuries. "Get her to the medical facility immediately," he ordered, his voice tight with concern. The architects acknowledged with a pulse of light, whisking Kira away to their advanced healing chambers. Nicholas turned back to the command hub, knowing there was still much work to be done. Over the next few days, as Kira's condition stabilized under the architect's care, Nicholas and Tina found themselves immersed in the daunting task of planetary restoration. The architects provided access to their terraforming technology, a marvel of bioengineering that seemed to blur the lines between organic and mechanical. Nicholas stood before a massive control panel, its surface alive with pulsing lights and swirling holograms. He placed his hands on the smooth, almost liquid interface, feeling the technology respond to his augmented neural impulses. "It's incredible," he breathed, watching as vast swathes of damaged land began to regenerate on the main view screen. "Tina, are you seeing this?" Tina's voice came through their shared neural link, tinged with awe. "I'm not just seeing it, Nicholas. I can feel it. It's like the planet itself is breathing through us." As they worked, guiding the terraforming process with their augmented abilities, the scars of battle began to fade. Barren craters filled with rich soil, sprouting new vegetation at an accelerated rate. Polluted waterways cleared, teeming with life once more. In the architect's medical facility, Lieutenant Kira's eyes fluttered open for the first time in days. She found herself surrounded by a cocoon of soft, pulsating light. As her vision cleared, she saw Nicholas standing nearby, relief evident on his face. "Welcome back," he said softly. Kira tried to sit up, wincing slightly. "The Nexus? Did it work?" Nicholas nodded. "You did it, Kira. The data you brought back was crucial to our victory." As Kira regained her strength, she began sharing insights into the Nexus's enhanced capabilities. During the battle with the Ravager, something changed, she explained. It was like the ship became an extension of myself. I could sense things, react in ways I never thought possible. Nicholas listened intently, his mind already racing with the possibilities. We'll need to study these developments carefully. The Nexus could be key to our future defense strategies. Meanwhile, in a newly established research facility, Dr. Morris and doctors huddled over a workbench strewn with salvaged harvester technology. The air hummed with energy as they activated various alien devices, carefully monitoring the results. "Look at this energy signature," Dr. Zen said, pointing to a fluctuating graph on a nearby screen. "If we can replicate it, we might be able to create a more effective shield against their weapons." Dr. Morris nodded, his fingers flying over a holographic keyboard. "I'm cross-referencing it with the data from our electromagnetic disruptors. There's a pattern here, I'm sure of it." Their work was interrupted by a soft chime. A group of Choros entered the lab, their bioluminescent bodies pulsing with gentle light. One of them stepped forward, its thoughts resonating directly in the scientists' minds. "We come to share our knowledge," the Choros communicated. "Your victory has shown us the power of collaboration. We wish to teach you our ways of environmental manipulation." Over the next few weeks, select individuals from each species gathered to learn the Choros' unique communication techniques. Nicholas found himself in one such session, marveling at the intricate patterns of light that danced between the Choros and their students. As he attempted to replicate a complex series of bioluminescent pulses, Nicholas felt a sudden shift in his perception. For a brief moment, he could sense the vast network of life that surrounded him, from the tiniest microorganism to the planet's largest creatures. "Extraordinary," he whispered, blinking as his vision returned to normal. The peaceful atmosphere was shattered by an urgent alert from the long-range sensors. Nicholas rushed to the command hub, his mind already interfacing with the incoming data. "We've detected unusual activity in a nearby star system," he announced to the gathered coalition leaders. "It could be a surviving harvester outpost." The room erupted in concerned murmurs. Nicholas raised his hand for silence. "We need to investigate this immediately. I propose a scouting mission." Lieutenant Kira, now fully recovered, stepped forward. "I'll go. The Nexus is the best ship for the job, and I know her capabilities better than anyone." Nicholas nodded, feeling a mix of pride and apprehension. "Agreed. But you won't be going alone. We'll assemble a small team to accompany you." As Kira prepared for the mission, Nicholas turned his attention to the potential threat. He spent long hours with symbiote-tacticians, developing strategies that would combine their organic ship designs with architect weaponry and augmented human abilities. Tina approached him during one such planning session, her expression determined. "I want to lead a covert operation," she said. "If there's a harvester outpost, we'll need to disable its defenses from within." Nicholas studied her for a moment, remembering her successful infiltration of the harvester base. "It's risky, but you're right. We'll need to give you additional augmentations to improve your chances." As preparations for both the scouting mission and potential strike intensified, Nicholas found himself pulled in multiple directions. He was overseeing Kira's departure when another alert caught his attention. "Sir," a communications officer called out, "we're picking up a faint distress signal. It's coming from an unexplored sector." Nicholas frowned, studying the signal's characteristics. That's not harvester technology. In fact, it almost looks human. The implications hit him like a physical blow. Could there be other human colonies out there? Survivors of earlier expeditions? The possibilities were staggering. Now Nicholas faced an impossible choice. Proceed with the planned harvester outpost, or divert resources to investigate this mysterious signal. Each option carried enormous potential consequences for the Coalition and the galaxy at large. After hours of intense debate with Coalition leaders, a decision was reached. They would split their forces, tackling both challenges simultaneously. "Tina," Nicholas said, turning to his trusted friend and ally, "you'll lead the strike team against the Harvester outpost. Take our best operatives and the new prototype weapons Dr. Morris and Dr. Zen have developed." Tina nodded, her eyes gleaming with perseverance. "We won't let you down." To Kira, he said, "Change of plans. Instead of a short scouting run, we're sending the Nexus on a long-range expedition. We need to find the source of that distress signal." As final preparations were made, Nicholas felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. The Coalition's resources were stretched thin, and tensions were rising among the different species. Maintaining unity would be crucial in the face of these new challenges. He watched as Tina's strike fleet departed, their ship sleek and deadly against the backdrop of space. Shortly after, the Nexus powered up its engines, preparing for the jump into unknown territory. Nicholas stood on the command deck, his augmented senses taking in every detail of the controlled chaos around him. As Kira initiated the Nexus's long-range jump sequence, he couldn't help but wonder what they would find in the depths of unexplored space. The future of the Coalition, and perhaps all of humanity, now rested on the success of these twin missions. As the Nexus disappeared in a flash of light, Nicholas turned his attention to the myriad tasks that lay ahead, knowing that the true test of their newfound alliance was only just beginning. As the Nexus disappeared in a flash of light, Nicholas turned his attention to the myriad tasks that lay ahead, knowing that the true test of their newfound alliance was only just beginning. The Nexus emerged from its long-range jump, the star-studded expanse of unexplored space filling the view screen. Lieutenant Kira's hands danced across the control interface, her augmented reflexes guiding the ship with precision. "Sensors detecting a gravitational anomaly ahead," she reported, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. Nicholas leaned forward, his enhanced vision processing the data streaming across multiple screens. "Can we get a visual?" The main display flickered, revealing a distorted section of space. Kira's fingers flew over the controls, adjusting their course, navigating around it now. As the Nexus skirted the edge of the anomaly, a hidden star system suddenly appeared before them. A red dwarf star burned at its center, with a small, Earth-like planet orbiting in the habitable zone. "That's it," Nicholas breathed, his augmented senses picking up the faint distress signal emanating from the planet's surface. "Take us into orbit, Kira." The Nexus glided into position above the planet. Nicholas initiated a detailed scan, the ship's advanced sensors probing the world below. Data flooded the screens, painting a picture of a small human settlement surrounded by unfamiliar structures. "It looks like we've got company," Kira observed, highlighting an area of alien activity near the human encampment. Nicholas nodded, his mind already formulating a plan. "Prep a shuttle for landing. We're going down there." Within minutes, Nicholas, Kira, and 2 architect specialists were aboard a sleek shuttle, its hull shimmering as the cloaking technology engaged. They descended through the atmosphere, the alien landscape growing more defined with each passing moment. As they approached the landing site, Nicholas's enhanced vision picked out details of the sprawling alien structure encircling the human settlement. "It looks like some kind of containment field," he muttered. The shuttle touched down in a small clearing near the settlement's perimeter. Nicholas led the team out, their biomechanical enhancements scanning for potential threats. They moved silently through the alien vegetation, approaching the shimmering energy barrier that surrounded the human encampment. Nicholas placed his hand on the barrier, closing his eyes as he interfaced with its control systems. The energy field pulsed and wavered, finally opening a gap large enough for the team to pass through. Inside, they found a scene frozen in time. Crude wooden structures stood alongside the remnants of advanced technology, all bearing the marks of decades of use and repair. Wary faces peered out from windows and doorways as the team made their way towards the center of the settlement. A man stepped forward, his weathered face a mask of cautious hope. "I'm Marcus," he said, his voice rough from disuse. Are you really from Earth? Nicholas nodded, taking in the primitive conditions around them. We are. We picked up your distress signal. Marcus's eyes widened. After all this time, we thought we'd been forgotten. As Marcus led them to a central meeting area, he explained the colony's history. The crash landing over a century ago, the arrival of the alien guardians, and the energy barrier that had kept them isolated for generations. Nicholas shared information about the current state of human civilization and their interspecies coalition. The colonists listened in awe, their faces a mix of hope and disbelief. We want to leave, Marcus said, his voice filled with longing. But the Guardians, they won't let us go easily. As if summoned by his words, alarms blared throughout the settlement. Nicholas's enhanced senses detected multiple alien craft approaching. Kira, Nicholas called out, get back to the shuttle. Establish a secure link with the Nexus. We may need emergency extraction. As Kira sprinted back towards their landing site, Nicholas turned to the architect specialists. Let's upgrade these defenses. We need to be ready for anything. They worked quickly, repurposing the energy barrier into a more robust shield and setting up electromagnetic pulse generators. The colonists watched in amazement as their rudimentary defenses were transformed into a formidable protective system. As the Guardian ships landed outside the settlement, Nicholas stepped forward to meet them. He activated his universal translator, preparing for first contact with the mysterious aliens who had kept these humans isolated for so long. The Guardians emerged from their vessels, tall, slender beings with iridescent skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. Their leader, a female Guardian named Zara, approached Nicholas. You are not like the others, she said, her voice a melodious hum. How did you come to be here? Nicholas met her gaze steadily. We received a distress signal. These people are our kin. We've come to help them. Zara's expression shifted, a mix of concern and something Nicholas couldn't quite identify. You do not understand. We have protected them from a deadly pathogen native to this world. The containment is necessary. Nicholas felt a flicker of doubt. Could the Guardian's actions truly be benevolent? He needed more information. I'd like to see your research data, he said. If what you say is true, we'll need to know everything about this pathogen before we can safely evacuate the colonists. Zara hesitated, then nodded. Very well. Follow me. As they entered the Guardian research facility, Nicholas's augmented senses went into overdrive. He detected subtle inconsistencies in Zara's behavior, micro-expressions that hinted at deception. Silently, he signaled Kira to prepare the Nexus for potential emergency action. The facility was a marvel of alien technology, far beyond even the advanced systems Nicholas was accustomed to. Zara led them to a central database, her slender fingers dancing across holographic displays as she pulled up the research files. Nicholas began to sift through the data, his enhanced mind processing the information at an incredible rate. As he delved deeper, his eyes widened. The truth behind the colonists' containment was far more complex and disturbing than he could have imagined. Behind him, he could hear the rising voices of the colonists, emboldened by the presence of their augmented kin. The tension in the air was palpable, a powder keg ready to ignite. Nicholas knew he had to act fast to prevent a conflict that could have catastrophic consequences for both humans and Guardians. As he continued to unravel the secrets hidden within the Guardian data, Nicholas's mind raced with the implications of what he was discovering. The true nature of the colonists' containment and the Guardians' long-term plans for humanity were about to come to light, and the revelations would shake the foundations of everything they thought they knew. Nicholas's eyes widened as he processed the data before him. The truth behind the colonists' containment was far more sinister than he had imagined. Without hesitation, He activated his neural link and transmitted the entire database to the Nexus. "Kira," he subvocalized, "initiate emergency extraction protocol. Now." As if sensing his discovery, Zara's demeanor shifted. Her iridescent skin pulsed with an angry glow. "You will not leave," she hissed, her melodious voice now sharp and threatening. Nicholas's augmented reflexes kicked in as Zara lunged forward. He dodged her grasp and swept her legs out from under her in one fluid motion. Alarms blared throughout the facility as Guardian security forces converged on their location. "Marcus," Nicholas called out through his comms, "gather your people. We're leaving." He sprinted through the corridors, his enhanced senses mapping out escape routes and tracking incoming threats. A Guardian security team rounded the corner, energy weapons primed. Nicholas didn't break stride. He leapt forward, using his augmented strength to bounce off the wall and sail over their heads. As he landed, he tapped into the facility's systems, overloading the security grid and plunging the area into darkness. Outside, chaos erupted as the colonists scrambled to gather their belongings. The architect specialists had already begun setting up a defensive perimeter, their advanced technology creating a shimmering energy shield around the evacuation zone. Marcus emerged from his dwelling, a weathered backpack slung over his shoulder. "We're ready," he said, his voice a mix of excitement and trepidation. The sky lit up as the Nexus entered low orbit, its sleek form visible even from the ground. Multiple shuttles detached from the ship, descending rapidly towards their position. Guardian ships rose to intercept them, but the architect specialists were ready. They activated powerful electromagnetic pulse generators, sending waves of disruptive energy that scrambled the Guardian vessel systems. The alien ships wobbled in the air, their pilots struggling to maintain control. As the first shuttle touched down, a group of Guardians approached from the east. But these were different, their movements hesitant, their weapons lowered. "Wait!" one of them called out. "We want to help." Nicholas tensed, ready for a trap, but his enhanced senses detected no deception. The Guardian who had spoken stepped forward, her skin shimmering with a softer light than Zara's. "I am Lyra," she said. "We've seen the truth in your data. What our leaders have done, it's unforgivable. Let us aid you." Nicholas nodded, quickly assessing the strategic advantage. "Can you disable their planetary defenses?" Lyra's eyes glowed with perseverance. "Already done, but we must hurry. They'll reactivate the secondary systems soon." As the evacuation progressed, Nicholas's neural link buzzed with an incoming transmission from Dr. Morris aboard the Nexus. "Nicholas, we've analyzed the pathogen data. It's real, but the effects on humans were grossly exaggerated. We're synthesizing a treatment now." "Good work," Nicholas replied. "Prepare for mass inoculation as soon as the colonists are aboard." A massive explosion rocked the ground, and Nicholas looked up to see a hidden planetary defense array emerging from beneath the surface. Energy beams lanced out, narrowly missing one of the evacuation shuttles. "Kira," Nicholas called out, "evasive maneuvers. We need to buy more time." The Nexus responded instantly, its advanced systems allowing it to dance through the sky with impossible agility. The ship's holographic projectors sprang to life, creating multiple phantom images that confused the Guardian targeting systems. Nicholas turned to Lyra. "We need to take out that array. You know the facility. Can you get us in?" Lyra nodded, her skin pulsing with nervous energy. "Follow me." They sprinted towards the array's control center, dodging energy blasts and leaping over obstacles. Nicholas's augmented muscles propelled him forward with inhuman speed, while Lyra's natural agility kept her just ahead. They burst into the control room to find Zara waiting for them, her eyes blazing with fury. "You would betray your own kind?" She snarled at Lyra. "We're protecting the innocent," Lyra shot back. "Something you've forgotten how to do." Nicholas didn't wait for the conversation to escalate. He lunged forward, his augmented reflexes allowing him to dodge Zara's wild swings. In a flurry of movement, he outmaneuvered the Guardian leader and reached the control panel. With a series of rapid inputs, Nicholas overrode the system and shut down the planetary defenses. The constant barrage of energy beams ceased, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. "It's done," he said, turning to Lyra. "We need to go. Now." They raced back to the evacuation zone, where the last shuttle was preparing for liftoff. The remaining colonists scrambled aboard, along with Lyra and the other defector guardians who had chosen to leave their old lives behind. As the shuttle door sealed shut, Nicholas felt the familiar lurch of rapid acceleration. Through the view screen, he watched the planet shrink away, the place that had been both a prison and a home to the colonists for so long. Aboard the Nexus, alarms blared as long-range sensors detected an incoming Guardian fleet. Nicholas's mind raced, calculating their options. The ship wasn't ready for another prolonged battle. "Kira," he called out, striding onto the bridge, "activate the experimental wormhole drive. It's our only chance." Kira's hands flew over the controls, her augmented synapses firing at superhuman speeds. "Drive charging. But, sir, it's untested at this scale. The risks are better than certain capture," Nicholas finished. "Do it." The Nexus shuddered as the wormhole drive spun up to full power. A swirling vortex of energy opened up before them, its maw a mix of mesmerizing colors and terrifying darkness. "All hands, brace for transit," Nicholas shouted as the ship plunged into the unknown. The Nexus bucked and heaved as it tore through the fabric of space-time. Alarms screamed warnings of system failures and structural integrity breaches. Nicholas gripped his command chair, his augmented bones creaking under the strain. With a final, violent lurch, the Nexus burst out of the wormhole. Emergency lighting bathed the bridge in an eerie red glow as multiple systems failed simultaneously. "Damage report," Nicholas called out, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. Kira's fingers danced across her console, pulling up streams of data. Multiple critical systems offline. Power levels at 12% and falling. "We're operating on emergency reserves." Nicholas nodded grimly. "Shut down all non-essential operations. We need to conserve every bit of power we have." As the immediate crisis subsided, Nicholas turned his attention to the hundreds of new passengers aboard the Nexus. The rescued colonists, along with the defector guardians, would need to be integrated into the ship's operations if they were to survive. He found Marcus helping to organize the colonists in one of the cargo bays that had been hastily converted into living quarters. "Marcus," Nicholas said, "I need you and your people to work with Lieutenant Kira. We need to get everyone settled, and then figure out how you can help with repairs." Marcus nodded, a look of persistence on his weathered face. "We'll do whatever it takes. This ship, it's our home now." Nicholas then sought out Lyra, finding her in the medical bay with Dr. Morris and Dr. Zan. The Guardian defector was providing invaluable insights into the data they had stolen from the research facility. "What have you found?" Nicholas asked, his enhanced mind already processing the streams of information on the nearby screens. Dr. Morris looked up, his eyes wide with a mix of excitement and fear. "Nicholas, this data. It's beyond anything we've seen before. The Guardian's containment of the colonists was just a small part of a much larger initiative." Lyra nodded, her iridescent skin pulsing with nervous energy. "Our leaders spoke of a great threat from beyond the known galaxy. Everything they did, it was in preparation for this coming conflict." Nicholas felt the weight of this new information settle on his shoulders. The implications were staggering, potentially changing everything they thought they knew about their place in the galaxy. Before he could fully process this revelation, a new alert caught his attention. The ship's long-range sensors, despite operating at minimal power, had detected an anomalous energy signature from a nearby star system. Nicholas stared at the readout, his augmented mind racing through possibilities. This new discovery could be a threat, or it could hold the key to their survival and the answers they desperately needed. He turned to his assembled team, his voice steady and resolute. "Prepare a scouting party. We need to investigate this signature immediately." As the crew sprang into action, Nicholas gazed out at the unfamiliar starscape before them. In the depths of unknown space, with a ship full of refugees and a galaxy-spanning threat looming on the horizon, he knew that their next move could determine the fate of not just the Nexus, but of humanity itself. As the crew sprang into action to prepare for the scouting mission, Nicholas felt a surge of anticipation. The unknown energy signature could be their salvation or their doom, but they had no choice but to investigate. "Kira, bring us in slowly," Nicholas commanded as the Nexus approached the star system. "Maintain a safe distance and run full-spectrum scans." The ship's sensors hummed to life, probing the depths of space. Data streams flooded the bridge displays, painting a picture of the system before them. Nicholas's augmented mind processed the information at lightning speed, his eyes widening as the truth revealed itself. "Sir," Kira called out, her voice tinged with awe, "I'm detecting a massive artificial structure in orbit around the gas giant." Nicholas leaned forward, studying the holographic representation of the colossal space station. Its design was unlike anything he had ever seen, clearly of alien origin. The structure pulsed with energy, its surface dotted with countless lights and moving objects. "It appears to be some sort of interstellar hub," Nicholas mused. "We need to get a closer look." He quickly assembled a team for the reconnaissance mission. Lieutenant Kira's combat skills and piloting expertise would be essential. Lyra's knowledge of Guardian technology could prove invaluable if they encountered familiar systems. And Marcus, with his keen observational skills honed over years on the colony planet, would help them navigate any alien social situations they might encounter. The team boarded a stealth shuttle, its sleek form filled with advanced cloaking technology derived from Guardian designs. As they detached from the Nexus, Nicholas felt the familiar thrill of venturing into the unknown. "Remember," he cautioned as they approached the alien megastructure, "we're here to observe and gather intelligence. Avoid engagement at all costs." The shuttle glided silently through space, its sensors detecting numerous ships of various designs docking and departing from the station. Nicholas watched in fascination as vessels of shapes and sizes he had never imagined moved with purpose around the massive structure. "There," Lyra pointed out, her iridescent skin pulsing with excitement. "That freighter is entering a docking bay. If we time it right, we can slip in behind it." Kira's hands danced across the controls, maneuvering the shuttle with precision. They followed the freighter's energy wake, slipping past the station's outer defenses undetected. As they entered the cavernous docking bay, Nicholas felt a moment of vertigo at the sheer scale of the place. The team disembarked, using their augmented abilities to blend into the shadows. They moved through the station's corridors, marveling at the diversity of life forms around them. Aliens of every conceivable shape and size bustled about, engaged in what appeared to be a massive trade and information exchange. Marcus proved his worth immediately, guiding the team through the crowds with subtle gestures and whispered observations. "Look at their body language," he murmured. "It's not so different from what I saw in the markets back on the colony. Watch for patterns in their movements, their interactions." As they explored deeper into the station, Lyra suddenly tensed. "Guardian ships," she hissed, pointing to a restricted docking area. "And they're not alone." Nicholas followed her gaze, spotting several high-ranking Guardians engaged in conversation with representatives of an unknown species. Their movements were furtive, clearly not wanting to draw attention. "We need to get closer," Nicholas decided. "Lyra, can you bypass their security?" The defector guardian nodded, her eyes glowing as she interfaced with the station systems. Within moments, they had slipped past the security cordon and into a hidden observation post. Nicholas activated a long-range recording device, capturing every word and gesture of the clandestine meeting. His augmented hearing picked up fragments of conversation that chilled him to the core. "The harvesters have agreed to the terms," one guardian was saying. "With their support, we can secure the strategic points before dash." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed and a cacophony of alien voices rose in panic and confusion. "We've been detected," Kira shouted, her weapon already in hand. Nicholas's mind raced, calculating their best route of escape. Back to the shuttle now! They sprinted through the corridors, their augmented abilities allowing them to outpace the security forces, converging on their position. Lyra's fingers flew over her datapad, hacking into the station's systems to clear their path. As they rounded a corner, a barrage of energy weapons fire erupted around them. Marcus cried out, stumbling as a bolt grazed his leg. Without hesitation, Kira scooped him up, her augmented strength allowing her to carry him while returning fire. They burst into the docking bay, the shuttle just meters away. Nicholas could hear the thundering footsteps of a massive security force approaching. "Get us out of here, Kira," he shouted as they piled into the shuttle. The engines roared to life as Kira initiated an emergency launch sequence. The shuttle shot out of the docking bay, immediately under fire from pursuing ships. "Evasive maneuvers," Nicholas commanded, strapping himself in. "Lyra, see if you can boost our engines. We're going to need every ounce of speed we can get." As Kira's hands flew over the controls, executing a series of dizzying maneuvers, Nicholas transmitted the gathered intelligence to the Nexus. He watched the data stream upload, knowing that the fate of humanity might hinge on this information. The shuttle bucked and weaved through space, narrowly avoiding the weapon's fire of their pursuers. Just when it seemed they might be overtaken, the Nexus emerged from its hiding spot, unleashing a devastating barrage that scattered the alien ships. Moments later, they were aboard the Nexus, the experimental wormhole drive spinning up to full power. As the ship plunged into the swirling vortex, Nicholas allowed himself a moment of relief. They had escaped, but the real challenge was just beginning. In the quiet of deep space, as Marcus recuperated in the medical bay and the crew began to analyze their findings, Nicholas stood on the bridge, gazing out at the unfamiliar stars. The weight of their discoveries pressed down on him, the knowledge of a galaxy on the brink of conflict making every decision more crucial than ever. He turned to Kira, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "Set course for the secure rendezvous point. It's time we warn the Coalition about what's coming." As the Nexus entered hyperspace, Nicholas began to formulate a strategy. Whatever lay ahead, he knew that the next moves they made would shape the future of not just humanity, but the entire galaxy. As the Nexus entered hyperspace, Nicholas turned his attention to the urgent task at hand. "ETA to the rendezvous point?" he asked Kira, who was monitoring their trajectory. 2 hours, sir," she replied, her fingers dancing across the control panel. "We're maintaining stealth protocols throughout the journey." Nicholas nodded, then addressed the assembled team. "Everyone, prepare your reports. We need to present a clear, concise briefing to the Coalition leaders. This information could change the course of galactic history." As the ship hurtled through the swirling vortex of hyperspace, Nicholas and his team meticulously organized their findings. Lyra worked with Dr. Zan to compile the data on Guardian technology, while Marcus and Dr. Morris analyzed the intercepted communications. Lieutenant Kira prepared a tactical assessment of the alien megastructure's defenses. 2 hours later, the Nexus emerged from hyperspace, the stars resolving into unfamiliar patterns. Before them loomed a desolate moon, its cratered surface betraying no sign of the hidden station that awaited them. "Receiving encrypted coordinates now," Kira announced. Commencing docking procedures. The Nexus glided silently towards an apparently empty patch of space. Suddenly, a shimmering field parted, revealing a sleek, metallic structure embedded in the moon's surface. The ship eased into a docking bay, magnetic clamps securing it in place. Nicholas, Kira, and Lyra disembarked, each carrying secure data storage devices. They were met by a contingent of heavily armed guards, their uniforms bearing the insignia of various coalition factions. "Welcome, Captain Nicholas," a stern-faced human officer greeted them. "The Council awaits your report. Follow me." They were led through a maze of sterile corridors, passing checkpoints where advanced scanners swept them for hidden weapons or unauthorized technology. Finally, they arrived at a set of imposing blast doors. The doors slid open, revealing a circular chamber dominated by a large holographic projector. Around it sat the coalition leaders, humans in crisp military uniforms, ethereal architects with their translucent skin, and the insectoid symbiotes, their compound eyes reflecting the room's dim light. Nicholas stepped forward, his augmented mind interfacing seamlessly with the room systems. The holographic projector hummed to life, displaying a three-dimensional image of the alien megastructure. "Distinguished leaders," Nicholas began, his voice steady, "what we discovered in uncharted space poses a threat beyond anything we've encountered before." He proceeded to detail their findings, the holograms shifting to show recorded footage of the clandestine meeting between Guardians and the unknown species. Gasps and murmurs filled the room as the implications became clear. "This alliance," Nicholas continued, "speaks of harvesters and strategic points. We believe they are preparing for a large-scale invasion, possibly targeting multiple species simultaneously." As Nicholas delved deeper into the intelligence they'd gathered, a shrill alarm suddenly pierced the air. Red warning lights bathed the chamber in an eerie glow. "Security breach detected," a disembodied voice announced. "Unauthorized transmission in progress." Nicholas locked eyes with Kira, who was already moving towards the exit. "Initiate station-wide lockdown," he commanded. "No one leaves until we find the source of that transmission." The coalition leaders erupted in a cacophony of voices, some demanding explanations, others calling for immediate action. Nicholas raised his hand, silencing the room. "We may have a spy in our midst," he explained grimly. "Lieutenant Kira and I will coordinate the search. I urge you all to remain here for your safety." Nicholas and Kira sprinted from the chamber, their augmented reflexes allowing them to move with inhuman speed. They quickly organized teams of security personnel, equipping them with advanced bioscanners capable of detecting hidden enhancements or non-coalition genetic markers. As they swept through the station's levels, Nicholas's comlink crackled to life. It was Marcus, his voice tight with urgency. "Captain, we've intercepted a coded message sent from the station. Dr. Morris and I are working on decrypting it now, but it looks like coordinates for a rendezvous." Nicholas's mind raced, formulating a plan. "Keep working on that decrypt, Marcus, and have the Nexus ready to move on my command. We might need to intercept an incoming ship." The search narrowed down to 3 suspects with anomalous bio readings. Nicholas decided to confront each personally, relying on his augmented senses to detect any signs of deception. The first 2 interviews yielded nothing conclusive, but as Nicholas approached the 3rd suspect, a junior architect diplomat, he noticed a subtle shift in the alien's posture. Before Nicholas could react, the diplomat bolted, darting into a maintenance corridor with surprising agility. Nicholas gave chase, his enhanced muscles propelling him forward at incredible speed. The spy weaved through a labyrinth of pipes and conduits, clearly familiar with the station's layout. But Nicholas was relentless, closing the gap with each passing second. The chase ended in a hangar bay, the spy cornered against a sealed airlock. Nicholas approached cautiously, his augmented arm primed to deliver an incapacitating shock if necessary. "It's over," Nicholas said, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. "Surrender now and dash." He never finished the sentence. The spy activated a hidden device, and before Nicholas's eyes, the alien's body began to shift and ripple, its very molecules seeming to rearrange themselves. Recognizing the imminent danger, Nicholas acted on pure instinct. His augmented arm surged with power, releasing a targeted electromagnetic pulse. The spy convulsed, the molecular transformation halting mid-process, leaving the alien frozen in a grotesque, half-altered state. As security teams swarmed the hangar, securing the incapacitated spy, Nicholas's comlink buzzed again. It was Lieutenant Kira, her voice tense with excitement. "Captain, we've detected an incoming stealth ship. Your orders?" Nicholas's eyes narrowed, a grim smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Engage le Nexus, Lieutenant. It's time we turn the tables on our uninvited guests." Guests. His voice was steady, but his eyes gleamed with tenacity. The Nexus burst into action, its advanced systems coming online as the crew prepared for imminent conflict. Nicholas strode onto the bridge, his augmented senses already processing tactical data. "Status report," he commanded, taking his position at the helm. Lieutenant Kira's hands flew over the controls, her voice crisp and focused. "Stealth systems engaged. We detected a ship emerging from hyperspace at coordinates 247 to 893. Signature matches known harvester vessels." Nicholas nodded, his mind racing through potential strategies. "Prepare for intercept. We'll use the moon's gravitational field to mask our approach." The Nexus glided silently through space, its experimental wormhole drive humming with nearly unleashed energy. As they rounded the moon's dark side, the alien ship came into view, a massive, biomechanical construct that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly light. "Weapons locked," Marcus reported from his station, his earlier injury forgotten in the heat of the moment. Nicholas raised his hand, signaling for patience. "Hold fire. Let's see what they're after first." The alien vessel moved with eerie precision, deploying what appeared to be a massive energy collector. As the device activated, the nearby star began to flicker, its output visibly diminishing. "They're harvesting the star's energy," Lyra gasped, her eyes wide with astonishment. Nicholas's expression resolute. "This must be connected to the artifact. Kira, bring us in closer. We need to disrupt that collector before they drain the entire system." The Nexus surged forward, its stealth field barely holding against the massive energy fluctuations. As they closed in, the alien ship suddenly pivoted, its weapons charging with a sickly green glow. "Evasive maneuvers," Nicholas shouted, gripping his chair as the ship lurched to avoid the incoming barrage. Energy beams sliced through space, narrowly missing the Nexus as Kira expertly navigated through the onslaught. The ship shuddered under the strain, its experimental systems pushed to their limits. "Return fire," Nicholas commanded. "Target their collector." The Nexus's weapons blazed to life, Guardian-derived technology merging with human ingenuity. Precision-guided energy pulses struck the alien collector, causing cascading failures across its surface. The harvester ship reeled, its energy collection disrupted. It turned its full attention to the Nexus, unleashing a torrent of weapons fire that lit up the void. "Shields at 60%, Marcus reported, his voice tense. "We can't take much more of this." Nicholas's mind raced, calculating trajectories and energy outputs. "Kira, on my mark, engage the wormhole drive. We're going to jump right past their defenses." Kira's eyes widened, but she nodded, her hands poised over the controls. "Now!" The Nexus vanished in a burst of swirling energy, reappearing moments later directly above the harvester ship. Before the alien vessel could react, Nicholas gave the order. "All weapons fire." The Nexus unleashed its full arsenal, Guardian-enhanced weaponry tearing through the harvester's biomechanical hull. Explosions rippled across the massive ship as critical systems failed. As the alien vessel began to break apart, a sudden surge of energy erupted from its core. A blinding light engulfed both ships, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. When the light faded, Nicholas found himself staring at a holographic display that had materialized on the Nexus's bridge. Ancient symbols scrolled across the screen, quickly translated by the ship's advanced systems. "It's a map," Lyra breathed, her eyes darting across the display. "Coordinates to something." Before they could process the information, alarms blared throughout the ship. Marcus's voice cut through the chaos. "Multiple hyperspace signatures detected. It's an entire harvester fleet." Nicholas's mind raced, weighing their options. The Nexus was in no condition for another prolonged battle, but the information they'd uncovered could be crucial to understanding the harvester's plans. "Plot a course to the nearest coordinates on that map," he ordered, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "We need to stay ahead of them and find out what they're after." As Kira input the coordinates, the holographic display flickered, revealing a massive structure orbiting a distant, uncharted world. The artifact's energy signature pulsed, calling to them across the vastness of space. "Prepare for long-range jump," Nicholas commanded, his eyes fixed on the mysterious construct. "Whatever the harvesters are planning, the answers lie there. And we're going to find them first." The Nexus's wormhole drive spun up, tearing a hole in the fabric of space-time. As they plunged into the swirling vortex, Nicholas knew that their next destination would bring them face-to-face with the truth behind the galactic threat, and potentially the key to humanity's survival. The ship emerged from hyperspace, the unfamiliar star system stretching out before them. Immediately, the sensors lit up, detecting a massive energy signature emanating from a nearby planet. "My God!" Kira breathed, her eyes wide as she took in the readings. "That energy output. It's off the charts." Nicholas leaned forward, studying the holographic display. A colossal structure dominated the planet's surface, pulsating with an otherworldly energy that matched the signature of the artifact they'd encountered before. "Maintain a safe orbit," Nicholas ordered, his mind already formulating a plan. "We need to get down there and investigate. Kira, Lyra, Marcus, you're with me. Prepare for a landing mission." The team quickly donned their advanced protective gear, each piece a marvel of human engineering enhanced by captured Guardian technology. As they boarded the shuttle, Nicholas could feel the weight of the mission pressing down on him. Whatever lay on the surface of that planet could change the course of the war, and potentially the future of the stars. The descent was anything but smooth. As they approached the landing site, the shuttle bucked and shuddered, battered by intense energy fields surrounding the artifact. "Hang on!" Kira shouted. Her augmented reflexes pushed to their limits as she fought to keep the craft stable. "This is going to be a rough landing." The shuttle touched down with a bone-jarring thud, skidding across the crystalline surface before coming to a stop. As the team disembarked, Nicholas immediately noticed the strange, pulsing formations that covered the landscape. Each crystal seemed to throb in perfect synchronization with the energy emanating from the distant structure. "Comms are down," Marcus reported, tapping his earpiece. "The energy interference is too strong. We're cut off from the Nexus." Nicholas nodded grimly. "We proceed as planned. Stay alert and stick together. We don't know what kind of defenses this place might have." As they made their way towards the structure, the alien landscape seemed to shift and change around them. The crystalline formations grew and receded, forming new patterns with each pulse of energy from the artifact. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble violently. Cracks appeared in the crystalline surface, spreading rapidly in all directions. "Look out!" Lyra shouted. diving to the side as a massive crystal spire erupted from the ground where she had been standing. The team scattered, forced to split up as the landscape transformed around them. Nicholas found himself separated from the others, trapped in a maze of shifting crystal corridors. "Lyra," he called out, his augmented voice carrying over the rumble of the changing terrain. "Marcus, Kira, can anyone hear me?" A faint voice responded, "Lyra," somewhere to his left. "Nicholas, I'm here. I can't see the others." Nicholas started towards her voice, his augmented senses on high alert for any sign of danger. As he rounded a corner, he came face to face with an automated defense system, a relic left behind by the artifact's creators. The machine whirred to life, its ancient weapons charging with a high-pitched whine. Nicholas's augmented reflexes kicked in, allowing him to dodge the first volley of energy blasts. He returned fire with his Guardian-derived weapon, the advanced technology tearing through the ancient defenses. As the smoke cleared, Nicholas heard the sound of footsteps approaching. Lyra emerged from the crystal maze, her own weapon at the ready. "Are you all right?" she asked, quickly scanning him for injuries. Nicholas nodded, his breath coming in short gasps. "We need to find the others and get to that structure. Whatever's inside. It's clear the artifact's creators didn't want anyone to reach it easily." As they pressed on, navigating the ever-changing landscape, Nicholas couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Something about this place felt alive, as if the very crystals were observing their every move. In the distance, the massive structure loomed, its energy output growing stronger with each step they took. Nicholas knew that whatever lay inside could hold the key to understanding the Harvester's plans, and potentially the power to stop them. But as they approached the base of the structure, a new sound cut through the alien environment, the unmistakable whine of energy weapons charging up. Nicholas and Lyra ducked behind a crystal formation just as a barrage of fire erupted from the entrance. "Looks like we're not the only ones interested in this place," Nicholas growled, peering around the crystal to get a better look at their attackers. His eyes widened as he recognized the uniforms of the Galactic Alliance operatives. The race to secure the artifact had just become a lot more complicated. "We need to find a way inside," Lyra said, her voice tense, "before they activate whatever's in there." Nicholas nodded, his mind already racing through potential strategies. As another volley of energy blasts struck their cover, he knew that their next move would determine not just the outcome of this mission, but potentially the fate of the entire galaxy. As the energy blast continued to rain down on their position, Nicholas caught Lyra's eye and nodded. They had come too far to be stopped now. "On my signal, we make a break for that outcropping," Nicholas said, gesturing to a jutting formation of crystals closer to the structure's entrance. "Ready." Lyra gripped her weapon tightly and nodded. "Now!" They sprinted from their cover, energy bolts sizzling past them as they zigzagged across the crystalline terrain. Just as they reached the new position, a deafening explosion rocked the ground beneath their feet. Through the settling dust, Nicholas saw the Nexus emerge from the planet's atmosphere, its weapons blazing. The ship's timely arrival scattered the Galactic Alliance forces, creating the opening they needed. "All teams, fall back to the Nexus immediately," Nicholas commanded through his comm link, hoping the interference had cleared enough for the message to get through. As they retreated, Nicholas caught glimpses of Marcus and Kira making their way back to the ship. The team regrouped at the shuttle, narrowly escaping as the Nexus provided covering fire. Once safely aboard, Nicholas rushed to the bridge. "Status report." Lieutenant Kira, already at her station, responded quickly. "Multiple Galactic Alliance ships detected in orbit. They're moving to intercept." Nicholas's mind raced. They couldn't risk a prolonged engagement, not with the information they'd gathered and the potential threat it represented. "Prepare for emergency jump," he ordered. "We need to get out of here now." The Nexus shuddered as it took fire from the approaching Alliance vessels. Kira's hands flew over the controls, plotting a course that would take them far from the reach of their pursuers. "Jump coordinates locked," she reported. "Engaging in 3, 2, 1. The familiar sensation of a wormhole jump washed over the crew as the Nexus tore through the fabric of space-time. When they emerged, the star field outside the view screen had changed dramatically. Nicholas let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "Where are we?" Marcus, who had taken his place at the navigation console, studied the readouts. "We're in a remote system, far from any known Alliance territories. Binary stars, one small habitable planet. No signs of pursuit." "Good work, everyone," Nicholas said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through his veins. "Kira, take us in. We'll use this planet as a temporary base to regroup and plan our next move." As the Nexus descended through the planet's atmosphere, Nicholas couldn't help but marvel at the alien landscape below. Dense, otherworldly vegetation covered much of the surface, broken only by occasional clearings and bodies of water. They touched down in one such clearing, the ship's landing struts sinking slightly into the soft soil. Nicholas immediately began issuing orders. "Marcus, I want a perimeter defense system set up using the Guardian tech we've adapted. Kira, establish a command center inside the ship. We need to analyze all the data we've collected from that artifact." As the crew set to work, Nicholas found himself drawn to the view screen, staring out at the alien world that would be their temporary home. He knew that somewhere out there, scattered across the galaxy, were more artifacts like the one they'd encountered, and he was certain that the Galactic Alliance would stop at nothing to claim them. A gentle hand on his shoulder broke him from his reverie. It was Dr. Morris, looking tired but determined. "Captain," she said, "Dr. Zan and I have made some progress with the holographic message. I think you'll want to see this." Nicholas followed her to the makeshift laboratory they'd set up in one of the Nexus's cargo bays. Dr. Zen looked up from a complex holographic display as they entered, his eyes bright with excitement. "We've cracked it," he said without preamble. "The message contains coordinates, 5 of them, to be precise. We believe they point to the locations of additional artifacts." Nicholas felt a surge of both hope and apprehension. "You're sure about this?" Dr. Morris nodded. "As sure as we can be, given the complexity of the data. But there's more, Nicholas. The energy signatures at these coordinates. They're massive. Whatever's at these locations, they're likely just as powerful as what we encountered back there." The implications were clear. If the Galactic Alliance got their hands on even one of these artifacts, the balance of power in the galaxy could shift dramatically. And if all 5 fell into their possession, Nicholas's mind focused, then we can't let that happen. We need to secure these artifacts before the Alliance can get to them. He turned to leave the lab, his mind already formulating a plan. "Dr. Morris, Dr. Zan, keep working on decoding any additional information from that message. I want to know everything we can about what we're walking into." As he strode through the corridors of the Nexus, Nicholas couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the precipice of something monumental. The hope of the universe might well rest on their ability to reach these artifacts first. He entered the newly established command center, where Kira and Marcus were already hard at work. "We have new targets," he announced. 5 of them. We're going to mount a series of missions to secure or destroy these artifacts before the Alliance can get their hands on them. Kira looked up from her console, her expression a mix of perseverance and concern. "Sir, with all due respect, we're not exactly equipped for a sustained campaign like that. We'll need supplies, repairs." Nicholas nodded, acknowledging her point. "You're right, which is why we're going to use this planet as more than just a temporary base. Marcus, I want you to lead a scouting party. See what resources we can gather from our surroundings." As Marcus departed to assemble his team, Nicholas turned his attention to the tactical display. The coordinates of the 5 artifact sites glowed ominously, scattered across the galactic map like beacons of both promise and peril. He knew the challenges that lay ahead would test them all to their limits. But as he looked around at his crew, each of them dedicated, brilliant, and now more experienced than ever, he felt a glimmer of hope. The Nexus might be just one ship, but it carried within it the potential to change the course of galactic history. And Nicholas was determined to see that potential realized, regardless of the cost. Costs! Nicholas knew they were walking a razor's edge, but the future of the stars hung in the balance. As the Nexus emerged from hyperspace on the outskirts of the system, containing the second artifact, Nicholas leaned forward in his command chair, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Activate cloaking systems," he ordered, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. Kira's fingers danced across her console, and the ship shimmered into invisibility. The Nexus glided silently through space, its advanced sensors probing the system for any signs of the Galactic Alliance. As they approached the target planet, Marcus let out a low whistle. "Captain, you're going to want to see this." Nicholas moved to the main view screen, his eyes widening at the sight before him. A massive orbital station loomed over the planet, its defenses jam-packed with weaponry. "Looks like the Alliance beat us here," Lyra said, her voice tight with concern. Nicholas nodded grimly. "But they haven't won yet. We need a plan to get past those defenses and secure the artifact." He paced the bridge, his mind racing through possibilities. After a moment, he turned to his crew. "We'll split our forces. Kira, I want you to lead a small team to infiltrate that station and disable its defenses. Marcus and I will lead the ground assault to reach the artifact itself." Kira nodded, her expression determined. "Consider it done, Captain." As the crew prepared for their respective missions, Nicholas pulled Lyra aside. "I need you to stay aboard the Nexus, coordinate our efforts, and keep us one step ahead of the Alliance." Lyra looked like she wanted to protest, but she simply nodded. "Be careful down there." Minutes later, Kira's team boarded a stealth shuttle, its sleek form barely visible even to the naked eye. Nicholas watched from the Nexus's hangar as the shuttle slipped away, carrying his second-in-command towards the orbital station. Nicholas and Marcus led their own team to a larger shuttle, primed for atmospheric entry. As they strapped in, Nicholas felt the familiar surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Remember," he said to his team, "our priority is securing that artifact. We don't know what we're walking into down there, so stay alert and watch each other's backs." The shuttle broke through the planet's atmosphere, descending rapidly towards a dense forest several kilometers from the artifact site. As they touched down, Nicholas activated his augmented vision, scanning the surroundings for any immediate threats. "Clear," he reported. "Let's move out." The team advanced through the alien forest, their augmented senses on high alert for any sign of Alliance patrols or automated defenses. The foliage was thick and unfamiliar, with strange bioluminescent plants casting an eerie glow in the dim light. As they neared the artifact complex, Marcus held up a hand, signaling the team to halt. "Energy readings off the charts, Captain," he whispered. "There's some kind of barrier ahead." Nicholas crept forward, his eyes narrowing as he took in the shimmering wall of energy that surrounded the entire facility. "Can we breach it?" Marcus studied his readings, his brow furrowed in concentration. "It's powered by multiple generator nodes scattered around the perimeter. If we can take those out, the barrier should fall." Nicholas nodded. "All right, we'll split into smaller units. Each team takes out a generator node. Move fast and stay quiet." As the ground team fanned out to tackle the barrier, Nicholas's calm crackled to life. Kira's voice came through, tense but controlled. "Captain, we've breached the station, encountering heavy resistance in the control room." "Hold your position, Lieutenant. Nicholas replied. "We're working on bringing down the planetary defenses now." He turned his attention back to the task at hand, leading his small unit towards the nearest generator node. They encountered a pair of Alliance guards, but Nicholas and his augmented teammates made short work of them, using non-lethal takedowns to avoid raising any alarms. As they reached the generator, Marcus quickly went to work, his fingers flying over the alien controls. "Almost got it," he muttered. "Just need to." There. The generator hummed and then went silent. In the distance, Nicholas saw flashes of light as the other teams disabled their assigned nodes. Suddenly, the massive energy barrier flickered and collapsed. Nicholas allowed himself a small smile of satisfaction before keying his comm. Barriers down. All units. Converge on the artifact complex. As they approached the now-exposed facility, Alliance guards poured out of the entrance, their weapons blazing. Nicholas and his team took cover behind alien structures, returning fire with precision. "Push forward," Nicholas shouted, his augmented muscles propelling him into a leap that carried him over their cover and into the midst of the enemy. His team followed, their enhanced abilities turning the tide of the battle. Just as they breached the entrance of the complex, Lyra's voice came through the comm, urgent and alarmed. "Nicholas, we've got multiple Alliance warships entering the system. You need to hurry." Nicholas gritted his teeth, knowing their window of opportunity was rapidly closing. "Understood. Kira, what's your status?" "Control room secured, Captain," Kira replied, the sound of weapons fire in the background. "Shutting down the station's defenses now. We'll make our way back to the shuttle." As Nicholas and Marcus fought their way deeper into the complex, they could feel tremors shaking the structure. Whatever the artifact was, its energy was becoming increasingly unstable. They burst into the central chamber, finding a team of Alliance scientists frantically working around a pulsing object that could only be the artifact. Nicholas engaged the lead scientist in hand-to-hand combat, his augmented reflexes allowing him to dodge and weave around the man's desperate attacks. Marcus, meanwhile, made a beeline for the artifact itself. "It's becoming unstable," he shouted. "We need to shut it down and get it out of here." Nicholas subdued the scientist with a final well-placed strike, then joined Marcus at the artifact's control panel. Together, they worked to stabilize the device and prepare it for transport. As they secured the artifact, Lyra's voice came through once more. "Nicholas, I've created a brief opening in the Alliance fleet's formation. You have a narrow window to extract. Get out of there now." The complex shuddered violently, pieces of the ceiling beginning to rain down around them. Nicholas hefted the now dormant artifact, its weight surprisingly manageable thanks to his augmentations. "Let's move," he shouted to his team. They fought their way back through the crumbling facility, the ground team converging on their position to provide cover fire. As they burst out of the complex, Nicholas saw Kira's shuttle touching down at the extraction point, its engine still glowing from the hard burn through the atmosphere. The combined team sprinted for the shuttle, Alliance weapons fire nipping at their heels. They piled into the shuttle, Nicholas carefully securing the artifact as Kira punched the engines to maximum. The shuttle rocketed into the sky, the complex collapsing behind them in a massive explosion that sent shockwaves across the planet's surface. Kira's expert piloting carried them through a gauntlet of weapons fire from the orbiting Alliance ships. As they approached the Nexus, the larger ship decloaked just long enough for the shuttle to dock. The moment they were aboard, Nicholas felt the familiar lurch of a hyperspace jump. He let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding, the adrenaline of the mission slowly fading. As the Nexus streaked through hyperspace, putting distance between them and the Alliance fleet, Nicholas turned his attention to the artifact they'd risked so much to obtain. Its surface pulsed with an otherworldly energy, holding secrets that could change the course of the entire galaxy. "Well done, everyone," he said, looking around at his battered but triumphant crew. But our work is just getting started. There are still 3 more artifacts out there, and you can bet the Alliance will be guarding them even more fiercely now. Nicholas's mind was already racing, planning their next move in this high-stakes game of interstellar chess. As he studied the artifact, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the verge of uncovering something that would reshape the very fabric of the universe itself. Nicholas's eyes remained fixed on the artifact, its otherworldly energy pulsing in sync with the ship's engines. The weight of their recent victory was still palpable, but he knew their mission was far from complete. With 3 more artifacts to secure, the stakes were higher than ever. As if sensing his thoughts, Lyra's voice cut through the tension on the bridge. "Captain, we're approaching the coordinates for the next artifact." Nicholas nodded, his focus sharpening. "Bring us out of hyperspace. Let's see what we're dealing with." The Nexus emerged into normal space, the starfield stretching before them. Almost immediately, alarms blared across the bridge. "Multiple contacts," Marcus called out, his fingers flying over his console. "Alliance ships and something else. Something big." Before Nicholas could respond, a priority transmission cut through their comms. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the grim face of Admiral Chun from Coalition headquarters. "Captain Stera," the Admiral's voice was tight with urgency. "We have a critical situation. The extragalactic threat we've been monitoring has breached our outer defenses. We've identified them as the Void Swarm, and they're advancing rapidly." Nicholas felt a chill run down his spine. "Understood, Admiral. What are our orders?" "Your mission remains the same, but with even greater urgency. That final artifact you're after? It might be our last hope against the Void Swarm. You need to secure it at all costs." As the transmission ended, Nicholas turned to his crew. Their faces mirrored his own perseverance and fear. "You heard the Admiral. Let's find that artifact." The Nexus approached a massive gas giant, its swirling storms visible even from a distance. Kira's voice broke the tense silence. "Captain, I'm detecting the artifact's energy signature. It's coming from one of the planet's moons." As they neared the moon, a new object appeared on their sensors. Nicholas leaned forward, his augmented vision zooming in on the vidscreen. "Is that a Guardian vessel?" The alien ship hung in space, clearly damaged and adrift. Scorch marks and hull breaches marred its once sleek surface. Marcus confirmed the reading. "It's definitely Guardian tech, sir, but I'm only detecting one life sign aboard. Barely registering." Nicholas weighed their options quickly. With the Void Swarm approaching, and the Alliance likely not far behind, every second counted. But he couldn't ignore the potential intelligence a Guardian survivor might provide. "Kira, prep a boarding team. We're going to investigate that ship." Minutes later, Nicholas watched as Kira led a small team across to the Guardian vessel. Their progress was relayed through the team's helmet cams, showing corridors filled with twisted metal and flickering emergency lights. "Contact!" Kira's voice crackled over the comm. "We've found the survivor. She's a female Guardian." The video feed showed a slender, alien figure huddled in a corner. As Kira approached, the Guardian's eyes widened in terror. She let out a high-pitched shriek and tried to scramble away. "She's terrified," Kira reported. "I think she sees us as predators." Nicholas made a split-second decision. "Hold your position, Lieutenant. I'm coming over." Using his command override, Nicholas took control of a nearby maintenance drone. Its camera activated, giving him a direct view of the scene. The Guardian was pressed against a bulkhead, her bioluminescent skin pulsing rapidly with fear. Nicholas focused, activating the full potential of his augmented neural interface. He reached out with his mind, pushing past the barriers of language and species. To his surprise, He felt a faint connection form. "My name is Nicholas," he projected, trying to convey a sense of calm and non-aggression. "We're here to help." The Guardian's luminescence slowed, her large eyes blinking in confusion. Hesitantly, a tendril of thought reached back. "I understand. You not eat?" Nicholas almost laughed despite the tension. "No, we don't eat other sentient beings. We're here because of the artifact. Can you help us?" The Guardian's posture relaxed slightly. "I am Alara. Artifact. Dangerous. Void swarm comes." Over the next few minutes, Nicholas and Alara established a rudimentary telepathic link. Through a mix of simple concepts and vivid mental images, she conveyed the dire situation. The Guardians had been attempting to activate the artifact as a last-ditch defense against the Void swarm, but had been overwhelmed by an advance force. "Alara," Nicholas projected, "will you help us? We need to reach the artifact before the Void swarm returns in force." The Guardian hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, together, only hope." As Kira's team escorted Alara back to the Nexus, Nicholas turned his attention to the moon below. The artifact's energy signature pulsed stronger than ever, but now he could see something else, dark, writhing shapes spreading across the lunar surface. "The Void swarm is already here," he muttered. "We need to move fast." Nicholas assembled his strike team, himself, Kira, Marcus, and their new ally, Alara. As the Nexus touched down on the moon's surface, he could feel the wrongness in the air. The Void swarm's biomechanical structures twisted and grew, consuming everything in their path. "Stay alert," Nicholas ordered as they disembarked. "We don't know what we're up against." They hadn't gone more than 100 meters when the first attack came. A swarm of insectoid drones burst from the ground, their razor-sharp appendages slicing through the air. Nicholas's augmented reflexes kicked in, his plasma rifle firing in controlled bursts that turned the drones to ash. Kira and Marcus formed a defensive perimeter, their own augmented abilities allowing them to hold off the waves of enemies. Alara, though clearly terrified, proved her worth. Her bioluminescent skin pulsed with energy, creating a disruptive field that confused the Void swarm sensors. As they fought their way towards the artifact's location, Nicholas couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The attacks were becoming more coordinated, more intelligent. Suddenly, the ground before them erupted. A massive, writhing form rose from the depths, its surface a nightmare of twisting metal and pulsing flesh. Multiple eyes focused on the team, and Nicholas felt an alien intelligence pressing against his mind. Overmind. Alara's mental voice was filled with terror. "Controls all. Must destroy." Nicholas gritted his teeth, knowing they faced their greatest challenge yet. "Kira, Marcus with me. We'll engage the Overmind directly. Alara, can you get to the artifact and start the activation sequence?" The Guardian nodded, her skin pulsing with drive. As she darted towards the artifact chamber, Nicholas turned to face the Overmind. Its tentacles lashed out, faster than any natural being could move. But Nicholas and his team were far from natural. Their augmented bodies blurred into action, dodging and weaving through the Overmind's attacks. Plasma bolts and energy blades carved through the creature's flesh, only to watch in horror as it regenerated almost instantly. The battle raged on, a desperate dance of attack and counterattack. Nicholas could feel his enhancements straining to keep up with the Overmind's endless adaptations. Just as it seemed they might be overwhelmed, a piercing shriek filled the air. Alara stood at the entrance to the artifact chamber, her body glowing with an intensity that hurt to look at. She launched herself at the Overmind, her form blazing with energy. The creature recoiled, its regeneration slowing. "Now!" Nicholas shouted, seizing the opportunity. He charged forward, his augmented muscles propelling him into a leap that carried him to the Overmind's central mass. With a roar of effort, He plunged his energy blade deep into its core. The overmind scream shook the very ground beneath them. Its form began to collapse, the biomechanical structure breaking down into inert components. But the victory came at a cost. Alara lay motionless on the ground, her light fading. Nicholas knelt beside her, feeling a mix of gratitude and sorrow. "Thank you," he whispered, knowing she had given her life to create the opening they needed. There was no time to mourn. The artifact's chamber lay open before them, its ancient technology pulsing with power. As Nicholas and Marcus raced to complete the activation sequence, a new alarm sounded from the Nexus. Lyra's voice crackled over the comm. "Captain, we've got multiple contacts incoming. Alliance ships, and something much bigger. I think it's the main body of the Void Swarm." Nicholas looked at the artifact, then back at his team. The weight of the humanity's fate pressed down on him, and he knew what he had to do. "Lyra, prep the Nexus for immediate departure. Kira, you're in command now. Take the ship and lead the Coalition forces against the Void Swarm." Kira's eyes widened in realization. "Captain, no. We're not leaving you here." Nicholas managed a grim smile. "This artifact needs to be controlled manually. My augmentations make me the only one who can do it. This is our last stand, Lieutenant. Make it count." As the gravity of the moment sank in, Nicholas pulled Kira aside. "There's a message in my personal logs. For my family. Make sure they get it." Kira nodded, tears in her eyes. "It's been an honor, sir." As the Nexus lifted off, carrying his crew to the final battle, Nicholas turned back to the artifact. Its energy coursed through him as he established a direct neural link. Images and information flooded his mind, revealing the true nature of the device. "Not just a weapon," he muttered in awe. "A tool for renewal." With the future of the stars hanging in the balance, Nicholas began to unravel the artifact's secrets, knowing that the real battle was only beginning.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.